Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to SimSpeed TV. It's another Saturday night here on our channels, and the return of the Game of Gear Direct Australian GT3 Open Endurance Series, 5th round of the Premier Endurance League's new top flight category here this year. And we're off to Italy, and the Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello will be our host for this evening's action. And just like to say a big welcome to everyone here across all of our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. Hope you're looking forward to the racing action here tonight coming up. Danny Amon joining you on the microphone and producing tonight. I've got Scott Rankin as your usual PEL commentator alongside me, and Pete Baxter, our pit lane reporter, will be joining us as well in due course. And yeah, filling in for Jay Kennedy here tonight, so all the best to Jay, and hopefully he'll be back in action as usual in a couple of weeks for round 6. But looking forward to what we've got coming up here at the circuit with Mugello. High speeds, a lot of loaded corners, and it's going to be quite the test, I think, tonight as to how the drivers tackle things here. Just outside of Florence there, down the spine of Italy in the northern half, as we zoom on into the circuit. And you'll see what I mean here when I'm talking about all of these long corners, which is going to mean that for these GT3 cars, it will be a bit of a test as to how well you've got the car handling, as well as how well you can manage the car into corners and the like. So this is what we're dealing with here: 5.2 kilometers of racetrack and a total of 15 turns to worry about as well. And that's going to mean there's plenty of things to have a look at here tonight. Obviously looking for things like the run into San Donato turn 1 after the very long front stretch. Up into turns 2 and through the 3 there, the first chicane, but it's a very open chicane if you can really even call it that. And then into the second chicane at 4 and 5, down through Casanova Savelli to bring it back towards Arrabbiatas at 9, 8 and 9, and bring your way back towards the end of the lap. Scarpiero Pelagio 10, 11. Corantaio for turn 12, the Biondetti pair of corners there, 13, 14, and then looping back around at Pacini to finish the lap to make it, as I said, the 15 turns that will encompass this circuit. And that's what we're going to look forward to in terms of the track. And of course, here in the PEL Open Series, we're looking at ourselves a 2-hour race here tonight. Fuel tank restriction for this round specifically has been set at 60%. And what that will do, of course, is basically expect ourselves a 3 pit stop race. And there is also earlier on this week and in the weather forecast the slight possibility of rain, but looking at how things going, that rain, well, actually it may come here either in the dying stages of qualifying, which so far I don't think is going to be the case. What is entirely possible tonight is that it'll come in the midst of between the race, qualifying here, and then into the warm-up and the race itself, and that will certainly make things a little exciting. I do have some championship standings for you here, folks. If you just give me 1 second, I'll get them up on screen for you as well. And as I'm getting the championship standings up for you here, folks, with Scott Rankin is just about ready to join me here on the microphone, and in fact I'll welcome him here now. And I was just talking about rain, and Scott with a good point to mention there, that if the rain does indeed come as the forecast suggests it may, we are going to be talking about crossover points and how drivers have prepared to make sure they know what tyre to be on at certain points in the session.
Well, I think that's a tricky one. Because if you have a look at the opening setup of the session as well, like leading in here, if we're going into that first hour of the race and it's potentially going to be one pit stop on the wet tyre back to a dry tyre, that's difficult. So shots from the circuit at the moment misleading a little, as it does look rather fine out there. Lovely B-roll footage, but yeah, it's going to be crossing over at some point. There is splashes of water. If you remember back to the limited series race 2 weekends ago, one of the big things about the limited series race was the rain did come, but it came way too late to matter, and they were able to stick it out on the dry tyres at the very end of that race. But once again, I think we're seeing the dominance of those Acuras, though, in terms of qualifying trim, no doubt.
Yes, what else but the Acuras, it seems, indeed deliver quite the strong power play, unfortunately, there. At the same time, they've been, a car that's hard to beat. Mind you, the big thing that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks is I actually need to double check the dates for the next round of the series, but if I'm not mistaken, we may be in a position where the next round here of the Open Series may come after the next major iRacing update, which will see an overhaul to the aerodynamic and tyre modelling for this GT3 class. And if that's the case, that will mean that could shake things up. But yes, it would appear that with Acuras continuing to be strong, that certainly isn't going to change here at a place like Mugello. As into the comms box, I hear a noise, and it is Peter Baxter joining us here after taking a trip around the pit boxes. And Pete, welcome on board for tonight once again, as you have been so far this season. What have you got for us in terms of some pre-race thoughts from the drivers out there so far?
Really interesting, Dan, and thanks for the welcome. It's great to be here again. I love this track. I think this track is severely underdone. It's one of the tracks that doesn't have a lot of overtaking opportunities, and you've got to use a lot of driver intellect to actually make an overtake. It's got a really, really long straight. It's got some corners where you can overtake, but if you don't work for it, you can't get there. Now, according to the drivers, some of them are like, just want to survive, not sure about the weather. They've been spooked by some of the practice sessions, which has had some rain. And that's fair enough, because sometimes we don't really know what the forecast has been like and what it comes out to perms like. But the biggest news I've got for you is the guy that is number one in qualifying right now, Ben Woods. He has a rear of grid start. So what we're going to see is when they all form up, and even though Ben has cracked the nut so far with 0.1 of a second of qualifying, as they go do the grid and roll towards the grid, he's going to get an end-of-line penalty and is going to have to roll back through the grid. I don't know if everybody else in the race knows that, and might cause a little bit of mayhem as we go to the start of this race. But looking forward to an interesting little mix-up in the start there with Benny's rear grid penalty. Everybody's a little bit hesitant about how we're going to go for the race, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed it all works out, because I did hear right towards the start of qualifying Ben just confirm with race control for tonight that whether that would be the case, and get confirmation he is permitted to take part in qualifying and would be sent to the rear of the grid as part of the formation lap. Checkered flag has now flown in qualifying. Apologies for not getting any footage of that here tonight. But one last thing as part of pre-race material I wanted to bring up that we've got ready to have a look at tonight, Scott. Our championship standings after the opening 4 rounds of the season, and it's looking pretty strong here for Dylan Shepherd and the One Performance Racing driver on top of the standings. But there's plenty of teams here in the top half of the field. If they can get together a good round and maybe a bit of coordination, things might change a little bit despite the margin out front, thanks to the healthy point scheme based on the IMSA system used in the series.
Yeah, I mean, points out there for qualifying, and I think that's the big thing for Ben Woods, as he was talking about being able to get points for qualifying. But the big thing is, I believe we'll have a drop round available to us as well. So, this isn't necessarily going to be what they look like with 1 round drop thus far. That'll happen prior to the last round. Remember, 7 rounds to decide a championship in the first half of the year. And this is going to be an interesting one. I like the fact that there is a good mix of teams as well. That says we've got a reasonably healthy series at the moment, even if it is perhaps a little Acura dominated. We'll chat about that across the duration here tonight. But for now, qualifying is in the books. Dylan Shepherd will lead the way in terms of championship points, but he won't lead the way from qualifying. There will be some work to do. Adam Wright, Nick Wood, Stuart Shaw, Trent Allen. Look at all those guys a long way down the points table. Amazing what the round will do. But here we go, boys. Qualifying has been run and done. We are into the warm-up session at the moment, so an opportunity for the drivers to step away between qualifying, drain the bladders, and prepare for everything that is coming. I think that's the big thing, is making sure that you as a driver are physically prepared, and there are multiple ways to do that. But physically prepared is important. And
I guess it depends on your age, Scotty, mate. If you're a young bloke like yourself, you just sort of do a few more warm-up laps and enjoy being on the track. But if you're an old fella like me, you sort of leave the car in the pits, get up and take your old gentleman's break before a 2-hour race. I'll give you that tip.
And with all of that there, pardon me, Scott, I've got to get used to the whole thing. I've got 3 here in the box, so I'm not used to it. You have to excuse me maybe a couple of moments there tonight. But what I can say is I've got the grid ready to show us here. And as you said, Peter said, do have to note here that at the very front of the field, Ben Woods might have the fastest time in qual, but we need to sort of ignore him and have him shuffle back down the order.
Yeah, so that'll be important. Race control's going through final briefings at the moment as well. So Ben Woods will steal the qualifying performance for Orbit Drop Bam Motorsport. Andrew Scored-Dillis manages to stick a strong lap or start alongside of him, albeit in the qualifying order. Dean Mackay will get promoted 1 row. He will start off alongside of Adam Hughes in the ordering, 3rd and 4th. And have a look at that margin back to 4th spot, 482 thousandths of a second, nearly half a second. Dylan Shepherd, half a second off the pace. Nick Wood will line up alongside of him in a Audi and a Mustang, row number 3. Before we get back to row number 4, Owen Coleman will line up alongside of Trent Allen, 2nd of the Mustangs, but 4th of the Acuras for Coleman. Sam Chapman and Stuart Shaw are going to be the 2 drivers who round out the top 10. And again, have a look at the spread of car choices leading in here tonight, as the IOTT Revolution iRacing squad gets several cars inside that top 10. They'll be happy with their performance here tonight. Outside the 10, we get back to Ethan Bass, and he'll be lining up alongside of Matt Webber. It will be the first of the McLarens, I believe, a little bit deeper in the fields at the moment. But back to Jamie Saxon and Tommy Wallace are going to be on the 7th row of the grid. Samuel Sproul and Adam Jepson are going to be on the 8th row of the grid for One Performance Racing and Bluebell Racing for Jepson, sporting new colours as the season moves on. At the moment, looks to finalise that new home. At a 17th spot, Jean McClune and Bobby Camo. P9. 9th row of the grid. 10th row of the grid. Final cars inside the top 20 is going to be Brad Coates and Daniel Coleman. Not able to reproduce the same pace of Owen
And
Coleman,
that's it.
but keep an eye on them. And finally, rounding out our field is going to be that of Nathan Tapp and Martin Lipsky. And there will be 2 more drivers who did actually enter the server and look to race here tonight. They are our series admins. and Pete will be ever giving them hell because Ricky failed to set a qualifying time. Jimmy out-qualified him.
Oh, wasn't that a legendary lap from Jimmy Middleton? It doesn't, you don't have to beat everybody, but sometimes you've just got to beat one person. And in this case, when it's Jimmy versus Ricky, I reckon it's an absolutely fantastic result from Jimmy, because Dan will attest, Ricky was here talking to us, getting prepped, trying to help us out and all the sorts of things that we could have done. But he was here worried about it, and I tried to push him into qualifying, saying, come on, qualify. Jimmy's going to beat you. And look what happened. Jimmy beat him. So take that as a message, Ricky. Mate, you've got to get in there and qualify. If you don't take every chance you get, that man Middleton is going to get on top of you. And that's one thing you don't want in this series.
Yeah, he will never hear the end of that one, because I guess side information on that is the last time these guys were here, Jimmy and Ricky went toe-to-toe. Ricky got penalised in the GT4 series for turning Jimmy Middleton as well. That one always gets bandied around, because this is obviously not the first time we've been here. And it was the beginnings of the Adrian Gretsch fuel issues, Pete, if you remember, all that time ago. And Adrian Gretsch, 2 from 2 at Mugello, ran out of fuel within feet of the start-finish line.
No, Adrian has never had a fuel issue in the last 2 races of this series. Never.
No,
never. No. In the first 7, I won't talk about it. But the last 2, no, absolutely, all sorted. But I can't even see him on the starting list, Scotty.
Yeah, no, he's not out there. That's okay. He'll live on as League Legends. That's the important part. Righto, ladies and gentlemen, the warm-up period has now finished off. We're going to be feeding off for our warm-up lap here in just a few moments. So all the pre-race banter, all of that has now settled down. It's actually a really interesting opportunity, Pete, because the benefit of having Dan Yeaman in the box is that we can steal all the state secrets of the Orbit Drop Bear squad. And Dan, what was the discussion around cars? The bigger thing I guess I'd really ask is that Pete and I definitely don't do enough GT3 racing these days. What is the reason the Acura is considered the number 1 car at the moment? It saves tyres, it's quick, it turns well, but is it poking us, like it just does everything well? It doesn't have a weak aspect?
Funny you asked me about that at the moment. I'm unfortunately in a bit of a sim racing purgatory when it comes to anything but commentating and broadcasting of late, and my guys have certainly been more than happy to give me a bit of rib about that as a result. But thinking about it and how the state of things currently is, I would be saying that the Acura is strong because of the fact it's a very good cornering car, is what it is, and that 100% really sort of gives it the edge over the other cars. It does lack a little bit on pure straight line pace at tracks where you're going to see that. So maybe here tonight, it might be a little vulnerable into turn 1, but as a car on balance, it's very hard to beat, and especially if any of the possible weather shows up at all. But looking at the weather forecast, we're seeing absolutely nothing coming. The rain has not appeared tonight, so what that rain will do is it might bring some other cars into contention, because if the rain did show up, the Acura would be even stronger than apparently it already is. Just sort of that's sort of what I've gotten out of my guys here over the course of this season. Obviously, I'm hoping to get back in the car at some point in the near future and get back to racing like everyone else and with everyone else. But until then, I'm only a source of second-hand information, not first-hand, unfortunately.
I can take it. Any ability we've got to get that one off you? Right, we've already seen the penalty for Ben Woods promoting him to the rear end of the field. Saw him jump out of the way on the pit lane entry, so that's all been sorted. Did actually go back and have a look at the forecast for tonight. And that's the pre-race forecast that the drivers get. We are currently supposed to be at the start of this race at a 70% cloud cover and a 27% chance of precipitation. The highest it was supposed to get was just before the warm-up session, about 30%, that tails off over the next hour or so. But that has fallen away to absolutely bupkis in terms of rain chances here tonight. And,
Yeah, absolutely, Scotty. So let's also talk about the rest of the race. So it's looking like a dry race as far as we're both concerned, I think. Fuel tank capacity 60% in these cars, which to me is about the 20 to 21 lap mark, or the 35 to 38 minute mark. So we are again in that area where we are a 2-stop plus if it's fully green, but a safety car or two will make it just a 2-stop race for everybody, and somebody could gamble midway through the race. So a few things to look out for tonight. I think we've got dry weather. I think we've got that element of risk if somebody wants to take it from a safety car fuel perspective. And then, yeah, we've got all these guys in the Honda Acura, which I think is a bit of a bland race car. It might be fast, but a bit of a bland race car. My GT3 of choice is the Porsche, just because it's all bravado fun and races like a go-kart.
I hate the Porsche GT3, and you and I are going to have that debate and battle to the end of time. Give me the Porsche Cup's not too bad. It's definitely sounds better than the GT3 car does, but bring back the 991. And anyone that knows me knows that I will debate that till the end of time. That the 991 spec had such a brilliant sounding engine. The RDR8 is and the Lamborghini are quite hard to go past in terms of engine note, but that 991 car will always do it for me. Right, a little bit of tyre warming from the front row. I can confirm there's been some discussion back and forth in sim as well. Andrew Scordilis will have control of the field, even though he qualified on P2. The technicality there is that the line that Ben Woods was actually in is still considered the pole lane. Now, it is more correct to effectively give Andrew Scordilis control of the field here. I enjoy that decision. I like the fact that decision was done, which is effectively ignoring an iRacing ruling. Righto, 2 hours worth of racing is about to come our way, and he's gone very, very early as Scordilis, as soon as he possibly could. He did not wait for them to get in and get amongst it. And here we go, run down to turn number 1. He has already jumped well and truly clear. Out the front of the field, Dean Mackay is going to be under pressure from Adam Hughes on the run at turn 1. Hughes will go the long way round and not be able to keep the car in there at the moment. Dylan Shepherd, remember teammate, leads the championship. Will sit 4th on the road at the moment. But everyone's seeming to get away on lap 1. Oh, well, I said that. The instant I said it, there is a car in the background heavily into the barriers. And I want to say that it might have been Brad Coates.
No, Scotty, there was an incident. Adam Jepson seems to be the worst for wear, and he's the one who's run off in through the sand trap, and he's come out at the back of the field. So I can't tell you whether he got put in there or whether he drove himself in there, but it's probably the former. But yeah, we'd have to go back and have a look at it, but we'll leave that to race control.
I can tell you, Jepson, they both went off on their own. It was they came together at the tail end of both of their respective incidents. Right, so back to green and up towards the pointy end of things at the moment. There is this really interesting battle between Stuart Shaw, Jean McLuhan and Bobby Comeau as the 3 Porsches go toe-to-toe on their first time of asking through the Scarperia chicane. Out through Pelagio and up and over the crest as well. Corin Taylor. Long right-hander that will bring us back towards the final couple of corners. Track limits, Pete. This is Mugello. There is GP track limits, and that means that they're going to be making the absolute most of them.
Yeah, look, you can be fairly liberal on the track limits tonight. You do have to go right over the white line to score yourself a track limit, but there are a couple of the chicanes where you come out of it, it's really easy to sort of tick them off. And if you tick them off one lap, you are going to find yourself in trouble. So the drivers are going to have to keep themselves fairly clean. I mean, look, I really like this track, because it's one of those tracks where, there's some periods or some spaces where it's nice and wide. You can go 3 wide in some corners or 2 wide, and you can really race. You can race on the curbs, you can race each other, you can breach the track limits, you can actually just test them a little bit, and maybe you can actually cop a track limit and then make an overtaking spot. But to be honest, Scotty, you can't overtake everywhere on this track. You know, it's a driver's track where you need a whole lot of intellect. You need to know whether you're faster than somebody else. You've got to really set up an overtake, and as far as I'm concerned, if you're not setting it up for the right corner, you're just going to fail. If you just go for a dive in one of the corners, all you're going to do is put yourself in the limit of track limits and, you know, at worst, a time penalty and a slowdown.
So for the meantime, Squidward's has still got control up at the front. Looking through the field, just keep an eye on Ben Woods, because it's very, very important. It's, we do keep track of where he got to. Started out of 24th or so spot, has driven his way back up to 16th for now after penalties. So next target will be Jean McClure. Remember, we were talking about him in that opening lap battle. They've cost themselves a fair bit of time. And McClure has had some further issues since, because he's dropped off the tail end of Bobby Camo, who was trying to track down. Good opportunity to ride down the final corner. Nearly a double apex that last corner too, isn't it? So long and so wide.
Well, I think there's two ways you can take that last corner. You can either break it early and take it really tight as one whole apex all the way around, and that's a reasonably quick way to do it. Or, as I've seen some other people do it, you take it quite late and turn in late and then take a late apex. But what I find is the guys that, or what I say guys, sorry, the drivers that take a late apex approach to that corner and leave it open often will find themselves vulnerable to anybody who takes it really tight, because the tight person, the tight driver, can actually get inside them by the time they get into the apex, and you end up having to sort of either lift or you end up getting turned around just because the fact someone's on the apex and they can't move, mate. You can't make a car disappear once it's there, right?
Couple laps in now. And Dean Mackay has gone ahead and set the fastest lap of the race. 47.177, so he'll close up within a couple tenths of a second at the moment of our race leader. And for the moment, he's nice and settled. Realistically, the biggest battle we're sort of keeping up an eye on would probably be that between Camo, Sam Sprouse, Stu Shaw, Johnny Saxon. Basically for 10th spot a little bit further back. I'll just come through the chicane. You can see him background of that shot right there. Sort of the closest little bunch on track at the moment. Long front straightaway, very long front straightaway here. And a low to medium speed corner for the approach. Who's got the poke in a straight line? Mustang or Porsche? Is that a trimmed out Porsche we're looking at? Sorry,
no, that's a drafting Porsche we're looking at, mate.
That's Stuart Shaw to the inside. Sorry, I thought it was the little battle in behind, as well as that Porsche gets to the inside as well. So Stuart Shaw picks one away from Jamie Saxon, and Bobby Camo is going to try and go around the outside of Sam Sproul at the first chicane, and does complete that job done. Props Sproul up at the apex.
Yeah, and props to all the drivers. Props to all the drivers there, Scotty. One of the things that I really love seeing on the iRacing service is when two drivers can race each other and accept that they're being overtaken. Because too often we see drivers in this simulated sport that can't accept being overtaken, and it ends up in a crash. So props to all the drivers in that little sequence, Stewie Shaw, Bobby Camo, and all the rest of the drivers. Well done, dudes. That is awesome driving and a great display of what we should be seeing in the sim.
Touch wide from Sprout. Instant point penalties, by the way, tonight for the fans watching on at home. 50 instant points will net you a drive through. So it is fairly hefty count, but you can quite easily pick a number up across the duration tonight. We do have ourselves about 67 laps, barring safety cars, through to the end of the race scheduled for tonight's affair. Adam Hughes starting to range up on the back of Dean Mackay's Porsche. So this is a battle we'll continue to see. And that's the onboard of the dash. Obviously, temperatures and pressure is not available to us as spectators at the moment. Otherwise, you'll be able to read how hard they are working their tyres. And that's one of the competitive advantages drivers always look for. So there's a balancing feature we're looking at the moment. Not quite close enough at turn one to get it done, but he is starting to get there as Hughes. Oh, big moment. I've just seen a huge moment for Sam Chapman as he entered the first chicane. He's actually had a cut. And that's Acura feeding out of the gravel trap in the background there.
I tell you what, Scotty, I'm watching Benny Woods. As we know, he qualified on P1. He started from the back. He's up to P15. He's caught the back of Sam Sproul. And the thing that I'm noticing is he's not just driving through the field. So one of the things when you start at the back of the field, if you're P1 normally, is there's a chunk of cars that you can drive through fairly easily. He's probably done that already. But now I think every other car, the difference in speed is not great enough that he can just drive past. So Ben Woods has now got it open that he's actually got to work for it. He's got to make sure that the other drivers are a little bit cooperative, that they can make the positions. But yeah, I don't think we're just going to see Ben drive to the front like he was on P1. So something I'm going to keep an eye on it as we go through the race. It's an interesting part of the race tonight, considering that he did qualify on effective pole, but was sent to the rear group before we started the race. So.
Just for the fans watching on at home, what was the reason for that penalty, Peter? I'm assuming it's obviously something carrying over from previous races, but
yeah, it was a carryover penalty. So he carried that penalty in from, I think it was an incident that he had in the last race, but it just ticked him over a penalty that created a rear grid. So let me get back to you. I'll go and get that factually for you.
Oh, I can actually chime in there for you guys. It was an unapproved car change, as per the series regulations. The requirements that
there you go.
has to be, you have to pick and stick a car, and if you make a change, well, he got disqualified from last race at the Nürburgring, and also in addition, they get given a pit lane start. As whilst we've been talking about that and looking at Sam Chapman's recovery from his moment last lap, new driver in second place, Adam Hughes, now ahead of Dean Mackay. I'll try and grab us a replay of that one there for us.
it was also worthwhile going for a degree of a replay because Ben Woods actually made contact with Sprout the final corner as well. And I've just seen John McClune go deep as well. So all of a sudden, I think the tyres are just getting to that point where they're starting to overheat a touch. So, run into turn one, drafted up, he's a touch closer than he was last lap, Adam Hughes, and Dean Mackay recognised that one wasn't necessarily going to happen if he tried to hang on to it. And the other problem is Score Dillis is starting to skip clear down the road. So, there's a right and a wrong way to defend. This is the moment for Ben Woods. He's currently in 17th. This was a few moments ago, battle for 14th. And it was just a hesitation from Sproul. Sproul's car wasn't secure on the middle of the corner. He started picking up the throttle, caught him. And say that there is a touch of damage to the front end of the Acura of Woods now. And he's got a few more cars to pass as a result. Chooses Cup to made some ground, and this is Ben Woods around the outside of John McClune, who was caught ahead and let him have that one. So that resolves a couple of little fights.
I don't know the results. While we were talking, and I didn't pick it up, I think we all missed it. Benny Woods went from P15 down to P17, and now he's back up to P16. So we did miss a little bit of something somewhere, but we'll see if we can find that. But yeah, no, thanks, Dan. That was a little bit of a car change, and as you say that, I noticed that Ben has gone to the Acura as well. So maybe there's something in that. The boring old Honda, as Pete Baxter's going to put it. Might be fast, but it's still boring old Honda. The guys are out there driving and enjoying it.
It's twin turbos. Latest hardware that's been added to the set. Mate, boring. There is the good news is there's nothing boring about race cars, right? Look, we can love them, we can hate them. They are not boring.
Yeah. Hey, you're going to start a thread somehow, don't you, Scotty?
Oh, what have you done to me, Pete? You're in trouble. Dan, what are your thoughts on the Acura? Boring race car?
I think it's such a complete package right now compared to the other cars that.
Okay, sure, but boring race car. I understand the pace argument.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll refocus. Okay, all right. I mean, look, I'm the biggest fan of it is. Whilst we've been looking here, Brad Coates has now picked up more damage to the front of his McLaren. And that front right corner is very damaged, actually. We need to press pause on this discussion. That was a very insignificant looking hit. And now, incredibly, I'm not seeing any mechanical black flags being signaled for the 299 machine of coats here. So this is actually quite... And there you go. Front clip completely comes off the AITT Revolution iRacing McLaren. And he's going to press... I don't think he actually knows how bad this visually looks right now from the outside. But look at that front right corner. And our speed is gone as well.
Yeah. So, and there it goes. That'll be why. Because the front clip is still sucked underneath the race car. Now, if that was a real world race car, you would have a completely destroyed undercarriage. Good news. The magic of sim racing. That car is completely fine. So, replay on that one. And is that McLaren that's run wide? It was. So, there's no way that's caused that damage.
Look, guys, I've just gone back to the replay on Brett Coates, and it looks like he's just come out of one of the last few turns, and he's made a little bit of... I would say it's a netcode thing, right, to be honest. It's a little bit of side-by-side contact, and the front of his car on the sim has just capitulated. So I don't think he's hit anybody. I actually don't think he's done anything wrong. This is a really, really unfortunate simism for Brad, and that's what's caused the major damage to the front of his car.
Right, well, either way, damage is there. Well, this is probably where we start to talk a little bit about strategy, because for those drivers with a touch of an issue at the moment, probably starting to crawl into the back of your mind is how can I get myself out of the issues that I'm having. In terms of fuel range, we saw a couple of weeks ago that it is possible to save. I believe Sam Chapman was the only driver to attempt that save to make it home on 2 stops, but Pete, I get the feeling this is going to be guaranteed 3-stopper.
Look, like I said, I'm a fan of Mugello, and it's a track I really enjoy. I'm also going to say is I think it's a track where it's unlikely to see a safety car. 2 reasons, right? The runoff areas are actually quite big runoff areas, so you can have a crash and you can be well and truly outside of safety car necessity. We've found, as we've seen at the Nords race, that the last one we had, race control were fairly liberal in terms of their interpretation in terms of when a safety car will come out. So if we apply that interpretation, the cars were sort of a lot closer to track than the runoff areas here, then my mind is I think we're seeing 2 hours of green flag racing with the cars opening up quite substantially, and that's going to mean 2 stops plus a splash and dash. So about lap 20, lap 21 for the first stint, 42 to 44 for the second stint, and then in the last 10 minutes we're going to see splash and dashes is my call for the race. So we're missing our notorious YouTube team from Roy Coister, Scotty, tonight.
Well, he'd have to be here. It's fair point. I think he's taking a little bit of a break. At the moment, we've debate about whether or not that bumper should have fallen off. I think the general consensus is, that one might have been buggy contact. Look, the thing is, we get a race at the end of the day. I never hate it. These two had a moment a couple laps ago as well. With Provenzali trying to go, or at least get a car on the outside of Jean McLean. They had contact, and there was no opportunity for Provenzali to get back down the inside.
Oh, never mind. Don't want that.
But in the meantime, they're just going to, Provenzali clearly looks quicker, but the difficulty is getting close enough to execute is going to be a problem.
Here it is.
Well, as I said, Scotty, earlier, it takes a driver with intellect to make a pass here at Mugello. And, you know, we've got Ricky Provenzali who's chasing others, but I wouldn't say he's got intellect because he raced a league and tried to do all that other stuff as well. So, you know, we can bounce off the debate. Lewis Greyhead chimed in on YouTube about the Honda Acura. The traction is crazy and needed an iRacing BOP, but hasn't got it. So hence people are picking the Honda Acura. And yeah, there's always an argument that the newest GT3 is always the one to be driving. You know, whether that's a commercial reality from iRacing is nothing that anybody can prove, but it's always there for people to debate.
Yeah, that'll be that debate and that question will rage till the end of time. There is no way to stop it. Even if there is nothing going on, or if there is something that is going on, there's no way to prove it. So that will be one of the big conspiracy theories related to iRacing in the category of multiple manufacturers. And the difficulty is keeping those manufacturers close on a system.
Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying Lewis said that. You know, Lewis picked out the thing about the traction, but it was my comment about the commercial realities of with that, and that's from other things that I've read over time. So they're the things we're going to look out for. But yeah, let's get back to racing. You know, Andrew Scadellis is running a hell of a race out the front. 2.5 second gap, pulled out. Should be nice and comfortable right now. We've still got about 10 laps or so to go before we think we're going to see the first pit stop. Cars are starting to spread out, Scotty, so it might be a hard one to commentate this race, to be honest. We might have to pull Dan in and, you know, give us some secrets of drop bear racing or something. I don't know.
Well, it's worthwhile having a look at the pack with Sproul, Camo, Chapman and Sachs at the moment, because they're all together on the run. I've just seen Sachs has actually just made an error, so Sam Chapman and Jamie Sachs are going to go side by side through the final chicane on the lap, and the fastest among them run to the final corner. Saxon is going to lose the spot as a result of that one. That was a result of a mistake at turn 12, which is that long loopy right-hander, a slow one too. It sort of turns you back towards the final corner. And then the run out of the final corner. Chapman gets ahead. McKenny break away. What is Saxon like for a little bit of poking straight line with a bit of settle? And Bobby Camo's actually starting to range back up on him a little bit. So there's no threat to Jamie Saxon up ahead. And that is a deep dive from Camo to the inside. Saxon is struggling at the moment in terms of tyres. This is a high tyre wear race, by the way. Debate about what you do with tyres will be really, really important. Left-hand side tyres, particularly left front, will take a beating. I just wonder if Jamie Saxon's left front tyre has just been used up a touch too much. Sproul's asking a few questions of him in the Mustang.
No, here's a question, Scotty. You just mentioned it. This is a high tyre wear race. I'm going to say right now, I don't believe that for a second, right? Because in the GT3, you can run a set of tyres for 2 stints easily in the Enduro race, and still, well, I can maintain my own slow lap pace, right? Easily for 2 stints on a set of tyres, right? So I don't believe for a second the tyre degradation you're talking about is going to impact this race like it is.
Well, it was a factor a couple of weeks ago on the limited series.
Oh, so. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's why we talk about this stuff, right? Because for me, GT3 tyres, even before the iRacing changed from the, you know, you can't fuel and tyre the same thing, GT3 tyres were always good for 2 stints. Sometimes 3 if you're good, but normally always good for 2. You changed tyres if you had the time, because there wasn't really a lot of advantage to it, and when they come out cold, you can lose some time anyway. So should PEL, this is a question I've got, should PEL consider a 1 tyre change option for a 2-hour race, even though they have fuel constraints for 2 pit stops or more?
Sorry to cut you off, Pete. There is contact at turn 1. Saxon, in his defence effort, Sam Sproul might have pinched him a fraction down at turn 1, so we'll have to get a replay of that one. Either way, Sam Sproul's got around. And therein is a bit of drama. And again, that's an ailing Jamie Saxon that has effectively been a part of that one. So he's lost 2 spots the last couple of laps, and Sproul was trying to make it 3. See you run into turn 1, pretty much neck and neck. When they get in the braking zone, Sproul kind of hasn't cleared. Oh, I do wonder whether or not Sproul might have turned in there. There wasn't a heap of room. But he also
no, on that angle I would say that the car on the inside didn't have the overlap they needed to at the turn in, mate. If it's from a race control perspective, but look, we've got to leave that to the guys to determine, but from what I saw there, I thought that the car on the inside did not necessarily have the overlap they needed, and Sam Sproul had the rights to turn in.
Yep. Either way, contact has been made and incident in review at this point in time.
All right, so let's come back to it, Scotty. So tyre wear, not a big issue from Pete Baxter's perspective, not as big as, certainly not a big issue when it comes to, 35-minute pit stints in this endurance. Should the league say, right, we're only going to give you 1 extra set of tyres to take, but we're still going to cap the fuel tank. So we're still going to make you do 2 stops, but we're only give you 1 set of tyres. I reckon that'd make a fabulous race.
Yeah, and it's these tracks right here whereby you have to manage an ailing tyre that are really, really important, because if you have a car that takes a little bit less out of that tyre, where you pace the back end, and let it be known that pace did fall off significantly on all the tyres at the back end of runs 2 weeks ago. But I think track temperature's just a fraction cooler due tonight, which may aid the drivers as well. The other problem was in terms of setup capacity, preparing a car for a wet weather track. There would have been some adjustments made there. At the moment, keep an eye on Dean Mackay and Dylan Shepherd. Shepherd trying to put forward his case for a championship at the moment. Started out of qualified 5th, started out of effectively 4th, and remains where he started.
Right, so you mentioned that a lot of the practices, Scotty, have been. Oh, hang on, some overtakes. A lot of practices have been, in the wet, and there was potentially some rain forecasts for the race. Should we not just have realistic weather for practices on the day of the practice and let that change throughout the week or 2 weeks up to the race, rather than try to set weather for the race conditions? Is that not more real now that we have a temper system and we have a system in iRacing that allows us to just say, well, hang on, we're going to race on the 31st of May, so the 5 days leading up, we're going to give you the realistic weather that comes up. That's your practice session. You can either choose to drive at that session or not, but it's not about actually, here's your perfect race scenario, get your best setup.
Yes and no. So I would love to be in a perfect world. The difficulty is sim racing versus real world racing. If tyres cost you money, fuel costs you money, you wouldn't see teams out there doing thousands of laps. I'm not saying teams will be doing thousands of laps for this event. Also, don't forget life gets in the way as well. But you can just test, give yourself a car that you're comfortable with. Sim racing is over-optimised is definitely one of the issues with it, and there is no good way of attacking that problem, because there's nothing you can do to resolve that problem. What we're talking about is you may run as many practice laps for an event as you physically feel, and there is nothing preventing you from doing it. There is nothing making you do it. So, you could run 1 lap of practice, you could run no laps of practice, you could run 3,000 laps of practice, and the timesheets are the only ones they're going to tell at the end of the day. And but conditions, you can mix them up across that.
That's what I'm saying, mate. If we got a Saturday night race, if Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday of that week are rain, you can choose or choose not to practice on that, and then Friday night's the only one that comes close to what might be race day, because you don't know what race day is. isn't that more realistic than just saying, all right, here's our server, this is what we're going to race in, set your cars up and go as fast as possible? What's the challenge? I mean, how far can we go? How far do we go? Send it to us, guys, on YouTube. I know, I'm the V8 vets, Scotty, you and I both in, they're adamant. It stays. We've got 7 days practice of what we're going to race in. I'm not quite so sure. I actually think that you get what you get on the day that you get it, right? And you gotta tune and attune to what you get. And we got this open race now, so let's have it. Let's have it out there. Yeah.
I like the sentiment. I agree with the sentiment, policing it, and the way that you set it up is, each their own. I want to back you, Pete. I really, really do, but I'm also not gonna waste my time in saying that's the way it's gonna roll, because it's just not gonna happen. Dan, as team boss here,
Yes.
how are you giving? I'm going to ask you for report cards on these drivers throughout the night. At the moment, walk us through your crew. And what grade are you giving them?
Okay, well, unfortunately tonight we're a little light on with only Ethan Bass and Ben Woods in attendance. Connor Nixon was going to be here, I can say, but
So he gets an F in participation, by the way. We'll just start with that. You're the comms boss, you get an F for participation. So, moving on.
yeah, that's true. I'm only 1 out of 5 for race starts this season, when I was hoping to make it 6 out of 7. So yeah, that's very true. You can slap me with the F for grades there to kick things off this season. That's true indeed. I can also say to Connor Nixon's absence tonight that unfortunately he's had problems with his computer, which basically befouled him any chance of racing tonight. Otherwise he would have been here. So it's kind of also a funny one for us, is that we've got, if we're all here, add Matthew Dench, add Jackson Dial, add myself, and Connor, to Ben and Ethan, makes 6. I think that's the peak of our strength here in PEL this season, unless I'm forgetting something like Harry Lewis, also maybe having done a race or two somewhere. So I mean, look, on one hand, it would have been nicer if more of my guys had showed up. That's very true. That's certainly how I feel about it as well. End of the day, it is what it is. And because we also went to completely different cars too. So like, some rounds we've felt like, a certain car is good. Other cars, not so much. And I think, well, also, fun fact, Ethan Bass basically refused to drive anything but the Ford Mustang. So that's why he's in that. I'd say Ethan's done a fairly good job. The car seems to have behaved better than others this season, I'd say, so far, perhaps. Hasn't seemed to hit a massive weak spot. And of course, Ben showing tonight that he had the 1 lap pace, and he's making his way back through the field. It's just the field is spreading out as we go. So I mean, to have to give grades, we're going to condense everything down to a letter.
Okay. Alternatively, you just go, I'm team boss. Publicly, they all get A pluses. Privately, we discuss.
I like that style of going with it. That sounds like it's an excellent way of going about it. But I guess also wouldn't be too shocked if that would also be considered a cop-out answer by some other people. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm going to challenge you. I am going to challenge you on this. I just thought, an opportunity to be the biggest team boss that you possibly could. Just be like, all my drivers are great. Gave you an opportunity.
You did. And I understand. Yes, I did refuse to take it because I didn't want to be too much on it. So look, I'm going to give my guys passing grades so far this season, on the condition of the fact that, well, it would have been nice to have seen them a few more out tonight. Maybe I'll have to go and say, so what we up to tonight, fellas? No one's racing. But speaking of racing, there's plenty of it still here on track, though. Such as this continued duel for third place on the road. Dean Mackay still holding off Dylan Shepherd, but they're just losing a couple of tenths to now both Adam Hughes and Andrew Scordelis up front, even though that's their Hughes passing by the front of shot. Also looking to see that it's becoming a very fragmented race. Yeah, we can call it 3 cars in battle here. Sam Chapman's just on the fringes of Matt Webber and Stuart Shaw's little tete-a-tete for 8th. Mo and Saxon still together for, 12th. And then Sam Sprout, Tommy Wallace. Okay, so all fanning out. Actually, let me put this up on a track map too for the sake of it. Show how the spread of the race so far. See? Huzzah, there we go.
Yeah, you can see that the field is basically just spread right the way over. Last running car at the moment is Trent Allen, albeit that is because he pit at the end of lap 15.
And he also got himself a black flag on pit entry, it seems.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains the long stop. So, and Jimmy Middleton is off the back end of the pack as well after starting from pit lane. So that is Trent Allen at the moment. You might actually see in the background of that shot, it's Andrew Scordelis' Acura. Yeah. That
is indeed Scordelis leading the charge. Now, unfortunately, essentially in Allen's wins. So yes, Trent will now be desperately hoping that the pit window is coming up for our leaders shortly. That will give him some breathing space. Stuart Shaw, though, will be our first car in the leading pack to pit somewhere around the expected pit window, though. So there you go, a slightly earlier taker, I would have thought, that the 93 Porsche's in.
Yep. And it was riding around its fastest laps of the day, so tyres, not an immense issue. Big decision will be, do they take 4 tyres at the stop? What sorts of tyres they look to take? 34 minutes on the clock as well. I wonder whether or not Sam Chapman might just be fuel saving a smidge as well. I don't necessarily think it's going to win him the race tonight if he cuts one stop out. He might get him inside the top 5, and that is worthwhile attempting to achieve if it's an opportunity. Dean Mackay still edging out at the moment. Dylan Shepherd, and that'll race on track. And I believe that's got championship implications as well.
Boys, how you doing? Just been a quick round of a couple of teams there. I was surprised to see Stewie Shaw come in the pits that lap. Lap 19. I expect most of the cars to be in lap 20 this lap or lap 21 next lap. On my own calculations, they've all been pretty coy. I think they've realised that I won't tell anybody, but I will tell everybody if they tell me when they're coming in. So they've all been a bit coy, but I think we're going to see the pit stops coming in, and there we go. Here they come in. Yeah, lap 20 for the speedy ones. Now the interesting thing is there is a driver out there that's going a little bit slow down the end of the field, who's got an extra couple of laps on the field of those that are coming in this lap. So, that'll be Jimmy Middleton. I won't, like I said, I won't tell anybody, but I will tell everybody. So Jimmy reckons he's got an extra lap, but that's also come at his cost for pace. So if he can save a whole pit stop, Scotty, for somebody who's not necessarily got the speed or leaders, that might be a strategic advantage that Jimmy has that others aren't thinking about.
That's nice, Pete, but you've also got to be in the picture to make an advantage of that. And unfortunately, Jimmy, you're doing a great job of fuel saving. He absolutely is. He's absolutely not going fast enough to burn it. That's the reason right there.
Scotty just said, Pete, you can be slow enough to fuel save, but you got to be fast enough to be there.
Well, trust me, I've been doing laps of the Nordschleife at the moment, trying to practice my fuel saving just to open up windows. You know I love a good fuel save strategy. You know how important it is to me.
Okay.
Right, I think we're going to have just about the field cleansed. At the moment, in terms of fuel strategies. And important to note, the race was to end right now. Jimmy Middleton would go from 23rd to 15th. So we would gain 8 spots. Now, But the other problem is everyone that's just pit is probably going to overtake him in the next stint. He's going to gain 3 spots, I reckon, by the end of the race, if he makes it.
All right, so we're Jimmy Middleton up 3. I'm going to note that down on my notes. We'll see if he can go from 23rd to 20th.
More importantly, Pete, I hope he doesn't make it and he runs out in the last lap. That is what I'm hoping for.
No, that's Adrian's bloody driving, not ours. And Adrian's not here tonight, so that's not the baton that needs to be passed over. Anyway, what I have noticed, there was a group of 7 cars that drove an extra lap there. Ben Woods, Dylan Shepard, Owen Cohen, Ethan Bass, Sam Chapman, Jamie Saxon, and Gene Corn. So, keep an eye out for those guys. They've got an extra pit stop. Not so much about going the extra lap now, but more about if they go the extra lap on another stint, then Scotty, you know that I've said this a lot of times. It's not about how far you go and how much fuel you save now. It's about how little fuel you need to put in your last pit stop that really matters. So if they're saving fuel and they're up the front, that's where it actually counts from a strategy perspective. So are we starting to see some games here of a lap or 2 that might make a difference at the end of the race?
Importantly is that Ben Woods and Jamie Saxon are the 2 that have gone 2 laps longer than the bulk of drivers. And that's critical to me. I had heard Ben saving a little bit, and that's probably why a little bit of pace at the back end. And his pace was actually on par with everyone else that he was in and around. He was matching pace with the leaders whilst he was fuel saving as well. The critical thing is if you're not close enough to get the pass done, well, you may as well save a little bit of the old juice. And I'll be interested to see what happens to his front bumper at the pit stop and how much damage he takes, because there is a touch of damage on that car, very relevant to the race at large. Expecting Woods and Saxon in this time by, but additionally that also explains the drop off in Jamie Saxon as well, why he fell back significantly and gave up all of those spots. So
and you got to think about, Ben's been fast. We know that because he qualified it effectively with the fastest lap. I won't say on pole, but effectively with the fastest lap, but was at the back of the grid. And when you're a fast car behind slower cars, you're right. The only option you got is to save fuel.
Is that contact for Jamie Saxon?
What's that contact?
He's out of fuel. He is out of fuel.
He is living in the pits, sorry.
And the reason for that is that he had to carry as much speed as he possibly could in the final corner, because he was going to be slow on the exit. Yeah, he's out of fuel. He ran out of fuel. So that is going to cost him a huge chunk of the amount of time that he did save. So that will be problematic. Unfortunately, for Saxon.
Oh, and unfortunately, Jamie's not in the Discord channel, so I can't jump in and I won't say for Donny, but I can't say and test what his theory was about getting to there.
You get in there and you harass the drivers, right? You give them help.
No, we're trying to encourage them to be more a part of the broadcast, so we can come in and have the Mark Larkham effect, or the Rihanna Crane. Hang on, that sounds terrible. Of having drivers included on the broadcast and passing on their insights and their information. It's really, really important. It makes it's an extra thing that PL does that no other league does.
Jamie.
And anyway, we'll leave it at that. Over to you, Scotty.
Something's just gone on as well. And there was an issue. Was that for Jamie Saxon, the pit lane exit? I had to look away for just a few moments.
No, it's to Adam Hughes.
So there was an issue with pit lane exit, and we're hearing it was because Nick Wood was actually speeding in the pit lane. Yeah, so the reason for that was that Nick Wood actually sped on the pit lane, and I believe it might have been on the exit.
Yeah, let me queue up those. We've actually had a couple of drivers get black flagged. pits.
Either way, there was quite a few issues in terms of pit lane cycles. Martin Lipsky spawned into the lane and had a very long stop, so I think he sped on the way in. So we're doing a little bit of digging at the moment. So watch the cars drop, and it's all about Nick Wood was the first car out into the fast lane, so therefore he's the car that has to be given way to. But the reason was that we're talking about it was that he must have punched the pit lane speed limit on that pit stop. And the problem will be probably can't get an accurate read.
Pit limit is 6.
He was going.
It's right there. I'm on spot here. Pit limit is 60. One last time. I'll have a look at the. Oh, he's doing 75 there just before passes. That's what gets. Then we had Fortune Saxon done double trouble. Self black flag hits. Same thing. Didn't get the limiter on.
Righto, so at least that solves that one. There was actually some discussion back and forth with race control, and that's Lipsky re-entering, so he had a slow stop as well. Just having a quick look around, Bobby Camo also had a very slow stop, where we're talking an extra 20 seconds on top of everyone else, so there might have been a tyre drama, unfortunately, for Camo, on top of some sort of infringement. So he's dropped way up.
And Scotty, I'm going to shout out, one of the things I will always shout out is top-level sportsmanship. Nick Wood, when somebody else got the penalty there, or a redress penalty from race control, Nick jumped on the blower and said to race control, no redress, my fault, that was my infringement in pit lane. Shout out to Nick for ultimate sportsmanship. He's undone the redress, put himself back and copped his own penalty, and is now back down in the back of the field. So somebody who's doing really well in the race for their own sportsmanship is back in the field. Mate, I give all kudos to that. I love people who will cop what they cop, because they know it's their own fault. I despise people that break rules and gain advantage. So good on you, Nick, mate. That is an absolute shout out for me. You're a true blue sportsman, and love having you.
All right, so yeah, unfortunately, Peter Cycle's brought in a few drivers out there, and for Martin Lipsky came out of the pits and parked to let lead lap cars through. He is one of 2 drivers now a lap down, and he also has 1 of 3 cars who've taken a stop over a minute, so therefore get issues on entry there, unfortunately. So, Pete, this is our one of 2 battles close on track at the moment. Stuart Shaw, Sam Chapman, 7th, 8th, and we'll keep an eye on them here down the start-finish stretch to see if they close up or not. But by the looks of that there, AITT, the Revolution iRacing Porsche, has got the edge. Chapman in the same team, Acura, on the front stretch.
Never underestimate 2 drivers in the same team running a race together. So I wouldn't necessarily seem that we're going to see 2 cars like that battling corner for corner. I think what we'll see is one might be able to just leverage and say, no, you just keep going, mate. I'm going to save fuel behind you until the point where the speed differential actually becomes, no, you're really starting to hold me up now. And then it becomes a cooperative pass. And as much as we see, even at the likes of Formula 1, they can race each other, but can they really? It's a little bit more liberal in sim racing, as we know, but when 2 people in the same team, the same rules still apply. You don't want to see the same team taking each other off just for the purposes of P12 versus P13 or whatever it is. So P7 and 8 in this case. So Dan, I would caution excitement whilst we got these 2 dudes together. I think there'll be an element of cooperation between those teams.
Yeah, of course, that's sort of the easy one to explain. Why is the car behind not making a run on the car in front? Tried the fact, yes, they are indeed front center. This, though, here on screen now, this is our other battle that's particularly close on track. As Adam Jepson to the inside as Sam Sproul can't find the way there on this particular lap. But these two drivers, two very different teams, One Performance Racing and Bluebell Racing Team, they certainly don't seem to have any kind of allegiance or even to work together if the way Jepson poking the nose up the inside at turn 12 there. There's anything to go by. Let's keep an eye on these two down the front stretch. Noting there, Jepson's car does have some damage at the front end that he's chosen not to clear away, and instead either got some minimal repairs done in the pits or nearly none at all. Also,
but also remember that Adam qualified quite well, but he had an incident on the first lap that put him through the sand trap and put him down the back of the field. So there is an element of Adam being faster than most of the field. I'll have to go back to the qualifying results to see where he did sort of qualify, but he had that incident which to me means he's going to be coming up against some slower cars anyway, so I would expect it. But as I've said before, Mugello, lovely track, not easy to pass on, something you've got to set up. There's a lot of corners where you just have to cop it, and you can be faster but you can't pass. But then there's a couple of corners where okay, this is my corner to set it up. And, mostly it's the last corner, going through that hairpin and the main straight into the first hairpin. To be honest, they're the really two big opportunities. Other than that, keep your tyres cool, race hard, and you'll get there.
yes, looking at the in-session results, P15 qualifying for Samuel Sparrow and actually right alongside him P16 for Adam Jepson. In qualifying, they were separated by 0.028 of a second in qualifying in favour of the Mustang of Sproul.
So that makes this a really, really good race to watch, because to be honest, these two guys are about the same lap speed, right? And it's about how much pressure someone can take, how much can you get in his mirrors, and whether you can put the guy in front off enough for him to make a mistake and get in front of him. That's true racing. That is true race play.
Second stop of the race underway for Jimmy Middleton. Well, now, this is a little interesting because we're... you're in the range of maybe choosing to take a short stop this time, but also no, over 50 seconds.
Did he also sped on pit lane as well, or is there damage on the
No, nothing that I can see. That's the other odd part, is it hasn't flagged as as making a mistake or anything there for Middleton. So it seems to be just either there's been issues off screen, which I don't have any record of paying attention to, or something else there. So I think Pete Bax is going to go see if he can maybe find us an answer. Scott, as
Jimmy's been in the pits for a very, very long time, so I reckon there's an external drama there. I don't think that one's related to racing, unfortunately. Just based upon the length of that stop and how long he's been around at the moment. Tonight, you were talking about report cards earlier on. Ethan Bass is actually up 5 spots at the moment inside the top 10. After qualifying outside the top 10.
Yes, that's a job well done. Ethan, as there's been a change of position here for 12th place, Adam Jepson gets ahead of Sproul, although then has to put up a firm defence to the final corner here. Try and hang on to this wide position. Onto the front stretch will go. This Mustang is generally good for straight line speed. Watch to see run the turn 1. Jepson had to cover the inside, no, but he'll take the racing line. Sproul. Part of I don't think they're in turn 1 on this account.
Yep. Keep an eye on the battle.
Hey lads, I just sorry Scotty, let me jump in. I just went and had a quick catch up in the pits with Jimmy. It's just a personal issue. He's got an injury that is precluding him from racing comfortably. So he has pulled out of the race rather than running around in pain. So yeah, fair call to Jimmy. Look, he's out of the race. That's why he's sort of out of sync and has pulled out of it. So good luck to you, Jimmy. Hope that all gets better, mate. And we'll see you at the back of the grid next round.
I was threatened by Jimmy that I need to speak nicely about him, or else he'll sure share damning photos of me yet again. At this point, to you, Jimmy, I have this to say. What more can you do? At this point, you've already shared them.
I was going to say, Scotty, I don't have damning photos of you yet, unless you come to Bathurst with me this year.
Oh, I'm coming. Yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not I give you reasons to create damning photos of me, but...
oh, they'll be there. Don't worry about that.
Sage advice extended from Jimmy Middleton to Pete Baxter earlier this evening was best thing you can do, get a damning photo of Rankin. It'll save your ass more times than you can count. I'm glad I have great friends in the sim racing world. If you guys weren't taking the mickey out of me, who would?
If your friends aren't taking the mickey out of you, Scotty, are they really friends?
Dan, you've met me once. You never took damning photos of me.
That's true. I'm not particularly an overly photogenic or photographic person. Myself.
All of us hid that weekend from cameras, I'm pretty sure. There was an opportunity to take a lot of photos of actually getting mates out together. We never did actually take that opportunity either way. Well, it's gone now. In fact, there's more. I've met Jay. I've met you twice now, Dan, and I've met Jay once. And there are more photos of me and Jay together than there are me and you together.
Well, I guess the only excuse I can have is on the first time or the second time. I actually forget I think it was the second time. The first time we met at Sandown. Mm-hmm. Yes, for speed when we both visited to attend Speed Series. The second time I can claim I was working, and you ended up being co-opted working as well. So we ended up in the same place but doing different things. For the
I want to mention Jay for the people watching at home. Jay Kennedy, normally our producer here behind the scenes of SimSpeed. Unfortunately, migraine this evening, so I think he's feeling a fair bit better. Another personality. There's personalities in sim racing that are just constantly working, and we all tend to work quite often together.
And I ideally need him working tomorrow as well. We've got 2 more broadcasts here on SimSpeed TV this weekend, back to back tomorrow for Sunday, the major series and Vet Scops. So fingers crossed. We're firing on all cylinders tomorrow as planned.
I finally get my first 2 days in a row off. And I think a fortnight, Monday night and Tuesday night. So I'm looking forward to those. The voice is thoroughly looking forward to those. But for the meantime, ladies and gents, we are now approaching the halfway marker of this race. And Scordillas has been closed by Adam Hughes. But it is closed and there is still no challenge at the moment.
And that's an interesting thing I'm finding, Scotty, in this race tonight is nobody, as I've popped around the different pits, nobody said, oh no, we got some things to come here. It's all just we're cruising, Pete, as good as we can, and we've got some pit stops coming up, but there's not much to look forward to. And I've got to tell you, if I'm Andrew Scodillas and hearing that, I've probably got a smile on my face, but he probably doesn't want to hear it, right? Because if you're driving in the lead of the race, there's one thing you just want to sort of head down, focus, and hit your apexes and just keep doing your lap speed. But yeah, I'm not seeing a challenger yet tonight, Scotty.
I think one of the interesting things is, if you have a look over those last couple of laps, is that Hughes has taken a second out of Scordillas. Margin's down below 1.5 seconds. So there is every opportunity that we could end up with a battle between these two. They are rather tight on the track. And the sector time, I think this is going to be really important, is to see what the sector times look at. Well, Hughes is 0.5 tenth quicker in the first sector, so we're right on board for a little while with Scordillas. And you can see in that rear view camera on the top of screen, that is The second of the Acuras in the race, closing and growing a little larger as they're about to come across the Sector 2 timing line here in this short shoot. Crest out of turn 11 down to turn 12. There is a Sector 2 time, and again, it's damning. 0.3 of a second on this lap. Scordilis has lost. So, Pete, he's in a little bit of a hole at the moment. There's some work to do. So, we're talking about there being issues. Well, they've cropped up. Might have ourselves a race. What is the straight line speed for the Frog Leap Juice Racing Acura look like compared to that of the One Performance Racing machine at the moment? Final sector times does earn some time back. 0.3
All right,
of a
Scotty. One of the things, yeah, you're right, 0.3 of a second there for the lap between the two, and they're going to keep going for a little while, I think. One of the things to take a note of, and you mentioned it to me before the race, we haven't talked about it yet on this, is incident points might play a part tonight, because it's really easy to just run your four wheels outside of the white lines here and pick up an incident point in iRacing. So for those that aren't initiated in iRacing, if you go off track or if your car is deemed off track, and iRacing deems what is off track and what is not, and normally it's four wheels outside the white line, you'll pick up a 1 point incident. And the series here allows 50 points for the race. So we're looking at 60 odd laps, 67 laps, I think you said earlier, Scotty. And it's really, really easy at this track in particular to just pick up 1 or 2 incident points if you're really pushing it each lap. And what I'm watching is, as we approach, we're 40 seconds away from the 1 hour mark of the race night. So pretty much right on halfway. Adam Hughes is on 23 incident points, Scotty. So he is champing towards the bit where if he pushes too hard and keeps collecting those incident points, the last 5 minutes of the race, he might have to actually let up on some corners and let Andrew Scordilis go if that's the way it pans out. Nathan Tapp down in P17 is the highest. He's on 25 incident points tonight. So he is right now running the risk of a drive-through penalty. If you get those 50 incident points, drive-through penalty, that is race over. And if you're Andy Adam Hughes and you're going, oh, hang on, 50 points as drive-through penalty, that's something you don't want to do. It might be something that Adam might want to think about as he goes through, as we go through the 50% mark of this race.
Something we'll keep an eye on in the final few stages. And just sort of continuing to look on. Hughes finally did drop a couple tenths. There was a mistake in the first chicane of the lap. A little bit of a slide. The rear end got fractionally away from him, and Scordilis has hammered that advantage home. So margin for the lead blows back out again. It was very close to a second. And for now, this is a little battle that's forming out on track. But Brad Coates is still without the front end of that race car as Nick Wood has finally managed to make that overtake. Nick Wood, remember, coming back through from speeding in pit lane. Probably the worst place to speed on pit lane on the way out after you've done your stop, because then you have to transit back through the pit lane to serve your penalty.
I've got to tell you, mate, Brad Coates is doing well in the GT3 to keep up without a front clip on it, because, to be honest, in a lot of these cars in iRacing, you lose the front clip, you lose a whole lot of the outforce. So, he's doing really well.
Still circulating, which is the good thing. Martin Lipsky also looks to have pulled the car into the pit lane, and for an extended stay, we might have seen the last of him. So, 2 retirements thus far. Jamie Saxon also, after issues in the pit lane, I think he's already driven through. That looks like I'm seeing a drive-through penalty by the look of things for Jamie Saxon, or a very, very short pit stop. That was, remember,
Short stop.
coughed and ran out of fuel on the way into the pits. Might have had to come back as well. Down in 22nd spot. Those are the 3 cars, by the way. Saxon, Lipsky and Middleton all off the lead lap, and we've lost Martin Lipsky and Jimmy Middleton racing on that pitch, just going to investigate on behalf of Martin Lipsky.
What I can see here on my timing and scoring, Scott, I just honestly think Jamie Saxon's tried for the different strategy play of taking the short stop that he needs for fuel now, rather than later on in the race. That's what we've got here. So it's a strategy that Connor Nixon attempted to employ last time out here with the Open Series Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Felt like at the end of it didn't really work for him. So mind you, Connor racing in a Mercedes GT3 Acura, so perhaps a case of see if it drives differently, although for the most part you often want to run the fuel down on these cars and keep the fuel as you can, just because of the simple fact of the matter that less fuel, less weight, potential for car to go faster.
Update, Pete, from Martin Lipsky and the Tulip Racing crew.
Yeah, Marty's just again same as Jimmy Middleton, unable just from a personal reason to be able to keep racing tonight. So Marty's had to pull out of the race, and fair call to these guys, both of them, Jimmy and Marty, not feeling up to it. So for their individual various reasons, and instead of making somebody else's race a nightmare by their own mistakes, they've decided to pull out. So, like I said, I'll always call out good sportsmanship, and that's great sportsmanship from those guys. So, Marty and Jimmy, I hope you're both feeling better, boys, and we'll see you back in the next PL race. And go get them. Yeah, rest up, boys, and get well soon.
Circuit a few years ago, and the big accident we had in Formula One based around safety car issues. I'd nearly forgotten that was even a thing when we raced here during the period of COVID.
Tuscan Grand Prix, yeah. In a sense, it's a shame we don't see a track like this more often. I guess also this is a very aero-sensitive track, and it only really has one viable DRS zone, so I can understand why that would make it a bit of a tricky one.
Brilliant MotoGP though. Absolutely brilliant MotoGP track.
I mean, without a doubt, MotoGP is a category you really need to watch for. Apparently also the Moto2 race at Silverstone for their last round of the season was an absolute banger, and apparently needs to be watched by anyone who cares about motorsport and is willing to also show an appreciation for things on 2 wheels and not just 4.
You see the thing is, Dan, 2 wheels are cheaper than 4. There's 2 less wheels.
Wow, I didn't see that correlation coming. Thank you so much.
That's you can get into 2-wheel racing much cheaper. And for more life advice, tune in. Stay tuned in. Doing some research actually on the Mugello circuit. Do you know it's actually been praised for its sustainability efforts, using 100% renewable energy, using a bunch of solar and water conservation measures in and around the circuit as well. So this is one of those circuits that's trying to move itself into the future. Oh, that's an interesting stat. And as for you wandering along at home, exactly how long is the front straight? 1.14 kilometres. You can have a drag race down this front straight, literally.
Quite comfortably so by that number, then I'd say.
Only problem is not truly straight. That's the only issue.
Yeah, there is this slight issue. Would be limited in the ability to run extremely high-powered cars. Just looking around here to see what our battles are this race, and potentially brewing, but not here just yet. Owen Coleman versus Ethan Bass. Gap sits at about 1.1 to 1.2 seconds. So middle sector of this lap, Mustang. Bass not keeping up with Coleman here in the Acura. Still Stuart Shaw, Sam Chapman together. Ben Woods is closing in on the pair of them. So we could see a Loper there trying to make inroads on the AITT Revolution iRacing duo that are trying to lock down 7th and 8th. And Nick Woods, second stop, a lengthy stop too, but is right behind Daniel Coleman for 17th. Oh, how about that though there in the final sector from Ethan Bass, the Mustang coming on strong at the end of the lap here in Mugello.
Hey Dan, I just got back from having a chat with Nick Wood too, and you mentioned the lengthy stop. What that was the pit stop penalty that he got from speeding in the pits. But when he came in and served the penalty, Nick chose to put fuel in the car. So what it looks like to us right now that he's got a 20-second extra pit stop, but he's taken his penalty whilst also putting extra fuel in. So the pit stop itself was longer, but what it means is he's done the splash that everybody else hasn't done. So Nick Wood, he's got one stop to go, boys. Everybody else has got one and a splash.
Huge issues for Rick Provenzali on the current lap. Came out of Arrabbiata 2 at the bottom end of the hill. Caught a touch of the gravel on the outside, and he went for a very wild ride.
Actually had 2 moments here.
Yeah, that's because he crossed back onto the track and crossed over to the other side and then hit the barrier. So
separate to the Arrabbiatas, here's lap 34 for Rick. A little later in the lap.
Yeah, that'll be because there's damage on the front end of that car. So you probably need to go back and have a look at,
Here's lap 37 Arrabbiata 2. Oh no, Rick.
He just about had it saved.
There it is, yeah.
Add another car to the list. Nathan Taps had a moment. Turn 1 to 2. Happen at 3. Oh no, he eats the anti-cuts. Car says no. Thankfully, there's a circle for anyone to arrive on scene to make that issue. Red coats. Still when that accursedly damaged McLaren passes.
Noting as well, Mugello's actually had road racing in the region from 1920s all the way through to 1970, including a 34, I believe it was 34.8 kilometre. Sorry, my apologies, it was longer than that. It was 38.4 kilometre mile circuit, which is just shy of 62 kilometres. And that was the race lap record was 50 minutes, just shy, by Giuseppe Campari of Alfa Romeo back in 1928. How cool was that? So incredibly long lap, and the road course was also a 64-kilometre road course from 1920 to 1924. And Ferrari actually brought the track out. Was doing some more reading in 1988. At one point, I can't see any information if it was ever sold off to a new buyer. So I believe Ferrari actually do still own the Mugello circuit.
Oh yeah, no, Scotty, this is the Ferrari's Formula One test track, official Formula One test track, so home test track. So they get their cars and they'll run as many laps as they want around Mugello, and we were lucky enough to have it scanned and put on iRacing, so it's a lovely thing. They still run, as far as I'm aware, they still run F2 Formula Ford in the lower class races here, but it is a Formula One test track.
Well, used to be back in the days when you could test, as was Fiorano. By the way, Battle for the Race lead we were talking about, it was closing up. Well, it has now closed up. It is within a second. In fact, it's within half a second at this point in time. So Hughes has made ground, and he's finally there for Skidillis. No room left for mistakes at the moment. Skidillis will be looking to try and perhaps not ride those anti-cut curves much the way he did on the run into the Perrier at 10 on that current lap.
All right, Scotty, so if you're Adam Hughes, you're catching up on Andrew Skidillis. We are what I think is 2 to 4 laps away from the second pit stop with the splash and dash to go. What are you doing? Are you going to try and take the lead, or are you going to use the draft to save some fuel and take a lead through the pit stop in the future? Oh, there we go. Speak of the devil.
Well,
Let's go to the pits.
yep, pit lane entry, and again, we are right in and on that time frame at the moment. So both of them dive in. Dylan Shepherd went 1 lap longer in the first stint. So if he comes to the end of this lap, that will be 20 laps on the tank.
Well, he should go 2 more laps. If he went 1 lap first in, and he's still done the same thing, he should go 2 more laps and not necessarily take track position on this one, but it's the splash and dash that matters that will come in the end. We are 46, 47 minutes away from the finish, so there's no possible chance that these guys are going to get to the end.
Pete, something Dan and I spoke about at length last weekend, albeit because we were talking about real world GT3s. But the RDR8, which the reason we're talking about at the moment is when we're in the pit cycles, Dylan Shepherd is behind the wheel of. This is the Evo 2 package. They have all rolled off the production line, and effectively we'll only be looking at Evo packages from here on out. There is no more Audi R8s. Whether or not some series is opt to continue to upgrade this car is completely up amongst them. I guarantee there will be more error updates done to this car. You just wouldn't leave it its current spec. But where did Audi go in their future? Because there is no real car that sits in the middle of their line once the R8 rolls off the production line. That would be a huge loss for me. But at the same time, where Audi are going in the future, I believe we're looking at a more electric style for them. And what do you do? The car's sort of come to the end and there's nothing to do with it, and there's a sort of a hole in production timings as Shepherd will pit 1 lap later.
Yeah, look, let's stay in the race. Skidillis and Hughes have come out pretty much, they've both filled the same now, there's the same gap. These guys are now racing on track, right? So there is no fuel saving advantage. I think anybody else behind them is going to be trying to look for a fuel advantage. Then we talking about the Audi R8, Scotty. I don't think what you're talking about is confined to the Audi. I think what you're talking about is confined to pure hydrocarbon fueled vehicles, right? So, you know, our petrol charged vehicles, because the world, to be honest, the world's going hybrid electric, whether you like it or not. You know, look, I'm not a fan of it. You know, I like my petrol-based vehicles. I'm, a bit of a V8 nut, but the world has tended towards hybrid, and Formula One's in a hybrid era right now, and they might scale back on that a little bit. But I think GT3 in some ways is going to go towards a hybrid type element, and that's when I think you'll see that let's call it the Audi R8E or R8H, who knows? But in its current element, I think all car manufacturers are being tested until, or unless we see something like what's been mooted as the Toyota ammonia V8 engine that would come out in a GT3, an alternative fuel to electrical power that would then just change the racing scape altogether. So. Massively big argument, and my own perspective of it, my personal perspective, I'll reserve that for now. But I'm a hydrocarbon lover, but I don't think what you're talking about in terms of Audi is constrained just to Audi.
No, I agree, and that was, I think, a large part of the discussion is that the Porsche went from an 991 package to a 992 package recently. I actually think the American manufacturers who have just come out with their GT3 programs are actually really conveniently placed, because the Mustangs just come out, right? The Chevys just come out. These cars are in a really, really unique position where all of a sudden they might become the next GT3s that everybody's racing just because they're recent. Not seeing a huge Lamborghini program at the moment. They're sort of lurking beneath the waters. It's been a while since we've seen a Lamborghini, and obviously the discussions around the engine and its use as well. It's also very, very important to the health of that program. But the Acuras and the Honda, in terms of where that sits is, well, it's quite muted. It's not really come out and punch big holes. The sim racing world, obviously, completely different to the real world.
Yeah, don't underestimate Honda in the racing world. I mean, they've got, it's known and it's out there, like Honda power Red Bull Racing Formula 1. So Honda is there at the top end of motorsport. You've got Toyota because they're racing. So Japanese race cars and manufacturers, they are all fighting. They're putting billions of dollars into racing around the world. Ford and Chevy, billions of dollars in the US, around the world. The European manufacturers, look, they're putting their hundreds of billions of dollars into Formula 1, but are they necessarily backing the non-Formula 1 type racing? We don't see as much of it, but I think some of that, Scotty, is that we don't see some of the things that goes on in the world, like the Asian Ferrari series. If you go to the Singapore Grand Prix, you'll go and watch their support category. Whilst we get in Australia the V8 supercars, you'll get a 50-car grid of Asian dudes with Ferraris racing around. They're GT3 Ferrari spec, mate. And you're like, holy shit, where'd all these Ferraris come from? So don't underestimate what we don't see in Australia. There is some of these European manufacturers that are quite well supported around the world. We just don't actually see the benefit of a lot of it. Unless you research it in international motorsport, you won't necessarily see it. So is Audi dead? I don't know. Is Audi going to give us something else really spectacular for road? That'd be cool, and that would then be the new base for the next R8 or whatever they want to call it. But R8 Evo, have a look at what is it, the Mitsubishi Evo? That's like an Evo 13 or something like that. Evos can go on and on and on, and the cars can change. So one thing I will say for sure, Audi's always been a fair powerhouse in GT3 racing. I'm surprised we don't see a lot of it in PL here, and we've only got one Dylan Shepherd driving it tonight. I'm surprised with that because, for me, even from when I joined iRacing, the Audi GT3 was always the fastest, but for me it was always like kind of a lame car. It didn't have spirit and didn't have character. Hence I drive the Porsche, right, which is probably dumb, but the fast car, the dudes in the top split, they all drive the Audi R8 at Bathurst, and they all drive the Audi R8 in the 24 hours and at Spa and things like that. And you go, oh, why don't I drive that? Well, because I'm a Holden man, right? I don't buy an Audi, but it's a car to have. And have a look at Dylan Shepherd. He's up there, P6 tonight, running really, really well in the Audi. And what's in front of you? One Porsche and 4 Acuras.
Really important note, actually, that producer was actually trying to draw our attention to it. Thanks, Dan. By the way, was that Ben Woods has gone on quite a long way, and remember, that timer has just ticked below 40 minutes. What is a third of the race distance of 2 hours? 40 minutes. So Woods is definitely going to make this home on one more pit stop. He will pit at the end of this lap. And Sam Chapman is touch and go.
I reckon Chapman's good.
In the meantime, Scordilis has just set a new fastest up of the race, 46.877. By the way, less than 100th of a second, 8,000ths of a second behind him on that most recent lap time was Adam Hughes. And I tell you what, Scordilis just had to make a pass in the grass around Daniel Coleman as he caught lap traffic. Wouldn't be happy about that. That margin between the race leaders, you can see the lights have been flashing. I think for Hughes that was a mistake because he was trying to flash Coleman the other way. Apologies, pass back and forwards in the set. I mean, that is the thing. You're trying to read where the guy's going and trying to create the hole sometimes can be difficult. But Ben Woods on target for the two-stop strategy, as is Sam Chapman. The difficult part is, what is the game we're going to see? It's going to be about a 18 to 20 second transit through the pit lane. Woods will get in, he will get home comfortably. Be willing to see, curious to see whether or not he does fill the tank. The issue for Sam Chapman is if this lap tips over, we're on target for 67 laps. We are on target for 67 laps. And the problem is that sees Sam Chapman, I reckon, running a 24 lap stint to the end, he'll be very, very tight on fuel. Possible, but tight. The issue is, what's the game? Won't win the race. Podium's tight. Maybe a 5th spot inside that sort of range is touch and go.
Let's see if we can find out, eh?
That'll be the fun part, is we're going to have to wait to find out, I reckon.
Nah.
Pete's running up and down the pit lane with the microphone, as usual.
Plastic tank. That seems like an awful stop at 7 seconds. Then it's 10 seconds longer than it. Surely also going with had a description. Not a penalty.
He was right on Sam Chapman's tail when he came into the lane, so yeah, I'd agree with you.
Yeah. Pray tell, what's the margin between Chapman and Ben Woods? How would you look at that? 11 seconds.
I think he switched the. Did he switch the car off on the way in the pit lane? It looks okay.
It's not the it's the actual stationary in box time.
Okay.
Which then also contributes to being long on the transit. And there's a bit of chit chat on the radio.
Bobby Kamara heard, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. Well, I've got a couple of drives. Maybe there is something here. It's an overtake, a battle between Bobby Kamara and Daniel Coleman. Let's see if there's something. So Dylan Shepherd there is in the Audi behind Bobby Kamara. Oh, Coleman off the road. Shepherd then arrives on scene. Oh, no, wrong person, sorry. And I think he just felt a little held up through here. Yeah, back onto the apex there at turn 11.
To be fair, I actually think that Daniel Coleman's actually done a reasonable job there. Is it an awkward rejoin? Yes, but he stayed as hard left as he possibly could and given sufficient room. I don't think there'll be too much done about that one. There was more commented, though, about Bobby Kamara. I don't understand what it was, but there was...
Unless there was something there that we missed off replay, which I can't keep up. Lead lap car versus lapped car cycling between each other, perhaps.
That's what I'm looking at the moment. No, there's nothing going on there.
Hey lads, just come back from a quick chat with the AITT boys. Sammy Chapman thinks he can make it to the end, but he's still got a fuel save. So it's not a case of, I've got it covered, I can race. So he's still got to sort of work his way to the end. The really big, the one he called out, and it was the same one I had on, Benny Woods came in a lap after him. So Sammy Chapman and Benny Woods are the two guys I think are the wild cards right now for a surprise result here, and that will be only as a result of the need not to come through pit lane 1 more time.
The issue is why did Ben Woods all of a sudden have a minute worth of transit time when everyone else around was in 50 seconds and the low 50 seconds? So something, there is a question mark over that one. He'll resume maybe a 5th place finish or so. It'll be something in and around that marker, but time lost.
See if we can find out. I'll be back.
And I'm just physically up here on screen once again, just to highlight it. The average transit time for practically everyone else who's done second stop before Chapman, including Chapman himself, 50 to 51 seconds. Ben Woods there is 10 seconds longer in the lane and about 11 seconds longer in the box. Now, unfortunately, I can't look at what's happened without showing us all what's happened and having to sit there and watch a 37-second stop in the box.
I already have. There's nothing. You can't see anything.
There's
nothing.
nothing. Okay, so there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing telling. Joy. Well, we'll have to wait and see then how much that hurts his race. The other car I did want to note in terms of fuel strategy, I don't think there's a third stop on the cards for him, but Ethan Bass made it to the lap prior to Sam Chapman stopping. Now, that still means there's a long way to go. He's actually on his 5th lap at the stint, so he would have had to somehow do a Hercules, like a 24-lap stint as well himself. So not happening, but has got practically no fuel to add to this Orbit Drop MO Sport Mustang. It's just going to be a tiny little splash of maybe 2 laps tops on fuel. His own Coleman, after 6 laps, is back in the pit lane. Presumably he's going to be our first driver to splash to the finish.
Yeah. And I wasn't seeing a short stop from him. But I'm curious as well whether or not there would have been a couple of drivers thinking about a short stop. And Pete's back with the news on Woods.
Yeah, Scotty, this is an interesting one. So Benny's gone in, and what happened was his fuel stopped filling, and it wouldn't restart filling until iRacing had changed the tyres. So he has copped himself, and I would say an unfortunate iRacing bug penalty that has put himself sort of about 20 seconds longer than 20, maybe about 11 seconds longer than what he should have, only because of just an iRacing bug. So nothing he did in particular, just something that happened, and something that can happen to, I guess, anybody at any stage in the sim. So unfortunate for Ben, but good news for Ben. He knows he's going to the end. He reflected the same thing that Sam Chapman reflected back to me. So both these guys are thinking of the same thing about towards the end of the race. The person that we haven't talked about, Ethan Bass. Ethan Bass is on the same strategy as the 2 boys. Come in a lap earlier under our radar, and Benny Woods has called Ethan out as the potential race winner. Here we go.
Well, so Ben and Ethan were in the same chat. The problem that we have with that, Pete, is he came in 1 lap earlier, and that is a big saver to sort of get him home. It is doable, but we'd have to go 24 laps to get home. So
yeah, I'm not sure Ethan can do it. I reckon Ben can. I think Sam's going to have to really work, but yeah, to be honest, I think calling Ethan as he's going to make it to the end is a really, really big call, because one of the things that I think a lot of people forget is that 0 second marker that marks the end of the race is not the end of the race, right? Because cars have got to go around and do another lap normally. Or the leader it's when the leader comes around after the 0 seconds is when the checkered flag comes out. So potentially you've got an extra lap to do. And that's what catches a lot of people out on some of these timed races. So I think that's where Ethan might find himself a little bit short, where the boys might not be thinking. I think Ben Woods is in an absolute prime position, probably more prime, even though he copped 11 seconds, more than he thinks. The pit transit time here is about 15 seconds with splash and dash, sort of 2 or 3 seconds. So, even though it cost him 11, I think he's still sort of 4 or 5 seconds up. So maybe he mightn't have the benefit that he would have. I'm talking about Ben Woods here. No, he did start from the rear of grid, so even well and truly into the top 10, he's had a good race on his own.
Let's put this up here on screen. Sorry to cut in, Scott. The pit strategy differences between score dealers is an example of sort of the leaders on their same strat. And you got Bass, Chapman, Woods. Now, just calculating it backwards, and not sure on calculating backwards. My timing and scoring now estimates we could potentially get a 68 lapping, but that probably actually is unlikely, given that, as I said, our top drivers all going to expect to come in it's again. So Scordelis, Hughes, Mackay, at least the top 3 in this race, all perfectly in sync. Lap 20, lap 40, presumably therefore also will be looking at pitting about lap 60. And they're currently on lap 1. Lap 52, sorry, of this race. Bass there, he would have to do a 24 lap stint to finish the race, and the longest he's gone there as you can see, is 22 laps. So it would be a monumental miracle save from the 219 Mustang. Chapman there, as you can see, 21 laps at the opening, then did 23. And would also be looking at needing to do 23 again, finish at this rate. So stretched in, and then the save would be on. Whereas Ben Woods, 22, 23 to make it to 45, would only be looking to need to do, therefore, another 22 laps. So saving 100% required by Chapman and Woods. Just, yeah, the degree of how much is needed, by the looks of things, it's going to be within target for both of them.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Ben Woods is already starting to take chunks out of Sam Chapman. 6 tenths 3 laps ago, 4 tenths last lap, 3 tenths. Sorry, 4 tenths 2 laps ago, 3 tenths last lap. So that sort of gives you a marker of less fuel required to be saved as well. So the problem is, the big key is for Ben Woods, he's actually still matching times very close to that of our race leaders. So
yeah, I think what it says, Scotty, is that the top 4 there, so Andrews, Scadellis, Hughes, Mackay and Shepherd, those guys just need to put out of their mind any hint of fuel saving and just go as hard as they can, because I think by the looks of it, we're looking at about a sort of 20. So far it's been 26 seconds plus or minus a second, right, for fuel stoppage for what is a 50-second fuel stop. So that's a 24-second transit in pit lane, right? So essentially, the top 4 guys are going to give up 24 seconds plus 4 or 5, right? So maybe 30 seconds. Right now, Ethan Bass is 21 seconds interval from Dylan Shepherd. So that would put Ethan potentially up into second right now with those timings. So I think it really says that the top 4, they are hammered down. And Ethan, Sam and Benny Woods are just going to make it to the finish and see what comes out of it.
I just heard a call from car 27, which would be Trent Allen is hard in the barrier at the moment. And he is off of, this is the Scarperia Pelagio chicane at the moment, and that is awkwardly placed. This will trigger effectively everyone coming in for a pit stop that needs one.
Maybe just waiting. It's the request to tow's been issued, Scotty, but we haven't heard a safety car at this stage. It might just be a tow approval and race on.
I'm not getting an update on how that one's ended up where it is. Because those tyre marks they're heading in there are really straight. A hardware failure. I can straight up tell you it's a hardware failure. He's just had no turning in the car. Check this out. Bounces over a curve right here. And that's it.
Yeah, I guess they lost screens.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that one.
That's a graphic freeze or a hardware failure. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, nothing on the individual, just something that happened in the sim. But boys, we haven't had a hint of a safety car yet, so this is race on.
Yeah, it's still been monitored too. There's been no further update at the moment, so we are still waiting for an update.
Because if there's a safety car, I'll jump in and I'll jump all over you.
Oh, he's got his monitors back by the look of things. So whatever that was the drama previously appears to have resolved itself. And he's going to be able to drive it back to pit lane, albeit very slowly on the outside of this corner right here. That's Ethan Bass coming on the way through. Sam Chapman with him. So 2 drivers trying to make it on fuel. And have a look at how much Sam Chapman's actually closed in on Ethan Bass. Bass is using a significant amount of time fuel saving at the moment, boys, so he's going for it.
I think he was just that 1 or 2 laps away from making it. Possibly a case of the fact that the safety car was a potential there. threw his hat into the ring and said, all right, maximum save now to open up his options. And there's the roll. So for Ethan here, we don't think he can make it, but he's going to try and shorten his last stop regardless. Has now given Chapman a drafting buddy to work with here.
And Chapman will take it for a little while. He'll be happy to have some assistance for a brief period. But then after that, he will want to press on. His time period, he will need to wait to get himself home. Worthwhile noting, 5.24 kilometers in length Mugello is as well. It is a reasonably long racetrack. It's not Bathurst, but it is approaching that length. With such a long front straightaway, you burn a ton of fuel in the 1.14 kilometers from the last turn to the first.
And gents, I just jumped in with the number 413, Dean Mackay, because he was the only one of the 4 leaders that I could come and talk to in the pits. That comment was very quick, focusing pretty hard, Pete. No, that's all I need to know. I left into it, so that tells me that the top 4 have the message. These guys are on quality laps and they are going as hard as they go. And yes, there are pit stops to come for them.
All we can do is watch and wait at the moment.
Yeah.
And in about 6 laps or so, we're going to have a better understanding. 6 laps in terms of race time is probably about 10 minutes from now. So if you're wondering what to do and you need a break to use the rest room, now would be the time to do so.
Bring attention here quickly to Sam Chapman's driving style. Watch his gear selection choices on these shorter straights here, Scott.
4th, up to 6, back down to 3rd for the corner. So he's trying to save by dipping the RPMs as much as he possibly can.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
not
lot of work on the shifter. That's awkward.
I was going to say, it's not something you often see since the clutches are now disabled in these cars beyond about 70 kilometers an hour. You can see just every single corner is up to 6th, rolling in, and then back down the gears as you normally would to get the appropriate gear for the corner. And, well, I have to say, it's a strategy I've never seen used before, but he has saved fuel. So clearly, either it does something for him in terms of pace, or it's part of his rhythm when saving fuel. Either way, appears to be working for now. Just have to take note that, yeah, Ben Woods is now down to 6.5 seconds behind Chapman here in this position.
Race warning now into the final 20 minutes now. And you can see how much Sam Chapman's lifting off compared to Ethan Bass. It's massive compared to Ethan. So he's making his fuel gains up in the middle of the lap. Or there's no way. Stuart Shaw's driven up to these guys like they're standing still. He's going to have to do something about it, and that's where the drama could start to play its way. Have a look at Ben Woods as well. Worthwhile pointing out. Give me interval between each of these groups, by the way, if you can, Dan, because he's only about 6 seconds or so behind this pair now. And that was 12, so he's halved that margin. He might have gotten the go-ahead. He might be good on fuel now.
He has to save 1 less lap of fuel. We've still got to do a 22-lap final stint. We do go back to a 67-lap race.
Yeah, that's the difference, Dan. I think you're spot on. He's only at 22 laps, whereas the other guys feel saying we've got to do 23 or /24. I don't think 24 is achievable, but if you've hit your mark for 22, which you can do over halfway through the stint, then bang, you're on it. And I think that's what we're seeing from Ben Woods now.
It's worthwhile pointing out, so remember we were talking about track length, 5.24 kilometres. That front group have done effectively just beyond 100 Ks all night long. 20 by 5.24 is 104 kilometres. We'll add another 10.4 Ks to that number, and effectively a 22 lap stint is going to be about 115 Ks. So it's worthwhile pointing out that those teams are, 10.4 kilometres further on the same amount of fuel. Adam Hughes just pits, and he's come back out side by side with Ethan Bass. So that's your race lead debate as they go through turn one. I think this was to cover these guys off at this point in time, and also because he thought maybe I can get in and get undercut on Scordilis if Scordilis catches a touch of traffic.
Well, Scotty, that almost cost Adam Hughes P2, because if he'd have come out behind Ethan Bass and Ethan's saving fuel, then he'd have been in trouble and slowed down and put down behind Dean Mackay and Dylan Shepherd. So
Chapman's pushing on.
I'll tell you what, Adam Hughes is absolutely lucky. Dean Mackay and Dylan Shepherd, now that they've got to do their pit stops, that means they're going to fall in behind potentially 3 or 4 cars here that are fuel saving. And that may be a whole lot of positions they're not expecting to lose right now. So that might be some surprises, such as the gap that they're going to drop as they come in and do their final pit stop, Scotty. I think Scordilis might be fine. He might, all well and truly should come out a second in front of Adam Hughes, but we'll see how that falls out when it happens.
Yeah, so at the moment, I can tell you that Chapman's now pressing the pace up a little bit, and Will Bass, if he's going to make it, he's just got to go into the pot. He's just got to save. There's nothing more that he can do. In fact, his pace dipped significantly on the most recent lap as he's trying to make this run to home. So race wins now off the table for these guys. But I tell you what, Dean Mackay and Dylan Shepherd are about 9 seconds behind Scordilis and Hughes are about 1.5 seconds apart. So realistically, somewhere around 8 seconds is the margin that they're sort of going to fall in. So at the moment, these guys are actually effectively fighting for third on the road. But Hughes will be second at the moment. Could be race lead.
If you're calling Hughes second right now for the race, I don't think we can call third, because to be honest, Ethan Bass, Sam Chapman, Stewie Shaw, all within less than a second. Dean Mackay, Dylan Shepherd still to pit, and I think they are going to come out behind Adam Hughes. They were behind Adam Hughes before he went in for his pit stop. The wild card here is Andrew Scordilis, and I'm expecting them in at the end of this lap. They can't do many more laps than Adam did. But I tell you what, If Adam's got an engineer and they calculated the gap and said come now and not in another 2 laps, I think that is kudos and needs a whole lot of champagne, because that was an awesome pit to come out just in front of Ethan where he did. And in fact, they were side by side, apex to apex, and Adam, I said, don't think he changed tyres, he must have just filled up. So I think Adam's done well. He's starting to pull away from them now.
Yeah, well, they have gone back into their fuel save mode because, they've got to. But there is nothing in it, and that's Bobby Camo is the next car in behind. Sorry, that's my apologies. Stewie Shaw, and then Bobby Camo is the next car in behind these guys. Shaw, 4th position in the Porsche. So you're looking back at Sam Chapman's Acura and then Stewie Shaw's Porsche in this little group. And we'll roll out. What is Shaw to do about it? Not close enough. So the fuel number's still a touch painful. And Hughes' lap time was good too, so he might have actually found a way to perhaps take some time. Back out of Scordilis won't be much. Hughes ran a 47.072 versus Scordilis' 169. So if those numbers continue, Hughes is going to really apply some pressure.
No, Scordilis has got to have a perfect pit stop too, Scotty, because with only a second between the 2 cars, it's really easy to stop too short, stop too long, do something silly in pit lane that cost you seconds. So Scordilis is under pressure, I think now. I don't think he realises how much pressure he might be under.
So again, unfortunately for the fans watching at home, a fuel battle is about one of the most frustrating things that you can watch. But from a driving perspective, it is one of the most intense because you're trying to press on. You are trying to be aggressive, albeit lift and coast as well. It is exceptionally difficult. The skill required to do it at pace is high. Battle for second on the road, but what we're quoting to be somewhere around fourth and fifth at the moment, and this is really difficult to judge what this battle actually means. Trent Allen's in the pit lane for an extended period of time. Remember, he was the car that was in the barriers not too long ago. Stuart Shaw recognises that hanging around in behind these two guys, fuel saving, is doing nothing for his race strategy. He will dive in. And here we go, final 12 minutes of the motor race.
Yeah, well, that's taken Stewie Shaw out of anything of any sort of contention, but we've never really talked about Stewie Shaw as being someone else. We've always talked about Ethan Bass, Sam Chapman and Benny Woods. So 5, 6 and 7 as the three guys that might play a part. And they're the guys that are sitting only a second, or no, 2 seconds now behind Adam Hughes. So Adam has got the foot down and he is pumping pretty hard. And we note that the times of the top three, the lap times of the top three, are about the same time, and they're still faster than Ethan Bass, Sam Chapman, Ben Woods. So, Scotty, the top three have got to stay out as long as they can to make sure they come out in front of those three.
Well, they're not. These two are just not. They're simply not going to come out ahead of them. But they're going to come out relative with them. And
Scott Ellis is in. Scott Ellis is in.
Yeah, saw that one coming.
Dean Mackay's in.
And Shepard's going to hold out and go longer.
Shepard's got one more lap. So this is the race, boys. This is the race. We have waited an hour and 50 odd minutes to get to this point, and this is the race.
Yeah. And remember, Dylan Shepard went that 1 lap longer on the first stint. Could that be relevant in that little battle with Dean Mackay? He's been shadowing him for a long period of time. The splash and dash to the end could be minor.
Here we go.
Yep. Mackay's definitely coming up behind. Where is Ben Woods in relation to all this? Woods has gone through as well.
Hughes has got Skidillis. Adam Hughes has got Skidillis. I reckon that is effective P1 for this race. And I think the other two boys are going to fall in behind. So I think that it was a magnificent effort, those last 3 laps from Adam Hughes, to be putting down close to purple laps, but just fast enough to Adam Skidillis to jump him and undercut him. Important thing for Andrew Skidillis, he's come out in front of the group that are fuel saving. And this is the thing where I think Dylan Shepard and Dean Mackay, that's where they're going to pay for it. They're going to come out behind the guys that have been fuel saving.
Skidillis, by the way, just picked up a slowdown penalty on his outlap here. So not only has Adam Hughes managed to put him to the sword in terms of pace, but he's also had to pay a driving accuracy penalty effectively. Not being accurate coming down the hill through Casanova and Savelli at 6 and 7. Ben Woods continues to close. The tricky part for Ben Woods is at some point Sam Chapman is going to be able to turn up the wick. His fastest car on track at the moment has been Ben Woods. Remember all the way back to qualifying, put it on pole. Had to go to the rear because he wanted to drive an Acura. And tricky part here is got involved in the fuel saving games to make them work.
And Dylan Shepard
is in and out, and he's behind them as well. And he's the relevant battle is to Dean Mackay here. And Bobby Camo's in the middle of all this as well. He's going to jump out of the way. Great job by the lap car. Shepard does get out ahead. Shorter pit stop, went 1 lap longer. So is Shepard now released to go and try and hunt down Ben Woods in that little group ahead? Could we see this group of drivers all come together in the final lap or two?
maybe for P3. P1 and 2, I think, are set, Scotty. These, they splash and dash. They're good, right? They're going. But the guys that are fuel saving, and Dylan Shepherd, who's just got a little bit of a gap back to him, potentially Dylan might be able to come up and bring together. What have we got? We've got 7 minutes of racing, so we've got about 4 laps to go. Just because we're 4 laps to go doesn't mean the guys that are fuel saving can speed up. They've got to keep fuel saving. They've got to keep on their fuel number and driving to their lap number, which means the likes of Dylan Shepherd and Dean Mackay, who have got all of the fuel they need, they can go hard green to the end of the race. So, yeah, I think we might see a concertina.
It's going to be really, really tight. Really tight. 7 minutes on the clock now. Race leader. When does he pass the start-finish line? Because this will be critical. And from here on out, we start counting the laps. Gantry is right there. 6:46 on the clock. There'll be 4 laps to go. There'll be enough time for 4 more laps. 4 more laps for Sam Chapman gets him to 22. 4 more laps for Ethan Bass gets him to 23. I think he's in trouble. And for Ben Woods, 4 laps gets him to 21, so he's already ticked all his margin off. And you're going to see Chapman start to close in now because I think he's ticked off his fuel something. I think he's good to press on. Again, closes. He stopped the gear changing. I can tell you, remember we were talking about funky gear selection? That's all ceased now. Send set. That's deep. That's late. That's done. No, it's not done. Still alongside. This is going to cost them both lap time relative to everyone tries to cover him off at the exit. Wasn't quite clear. Bass has got to continue saving. Finally gives up the inside to Sam Chapman. He will take that spot. He will run. He's got P3 on the road. Now he'll ask the question of who can hunt him down. And the question that will be asked of him is how much fuel is there in the tank? Is he good to press on? If he is, then he might be comfortably in P3. And I have seen him stop the lift and coast, so I think he might be okay. How in the pot is Ethan Bass now? And how much poke does the Mustang have in a straight line with a bit of draft? Well, they're going to go toe-to-toe on the run into turn number 1, but Bass, remember, still has to fuel save. Well, he's not saving. He drove him hard into 1. Now, is this the team game in favour of Ben Woods? Is this Ethan Bass going, yeah, I'm not going to make it, so what can I do to harass you a little bit? Help the teammate out?
Well, that's a big call, Scotty.
Well, I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying.
That's a big call. I didn't think about that one. So, has Ethan decided he's going to do what he can? But Ethan's back on fuel saving clearly by the amount of time that Jam's pulled out on him there. I can't see Ethan holding up Ben at all. Teammate on teammate here.
He made him take it deep into turn 1. Chapman is trying to run. Now, if he's good on fuel, Ben Woods will not catch him. That's just too much to ask. With what we've got left, there is not that much pace difference between them. But the next question becomes, how close can Dylan Shepherd get to these guys?
Wait to see difference on this. That was lap 63. Distorted by the fighting Bass put up against it. Chapman.
2 laps from this point in time. Again, he's going to challenge Ethan Bass in terms of the distance that he can try and make this one. He'll jump out of the way. Woods will get to the inside. So that one is now resolved again. That's teammate on teammate. So you knew that one was sort of a done deal. No point holding your teammate up, propping him up. If you're still trying to chase down what you can. Margin between Chapman and Ben Woods at the line was about 1.6 seconds.
On that last lap, yeah, both Chapman and Woods about equal pace with Scott. So indeed, they're happy because it will be white flag next time around here. We are only going to get to lap 66 of this race, undercutting all the estimates that we had on schedule. And as a result, that actually will make a 22 laps in here viable for Ethan Bass. He just had to keep saving to the point where he'll probably have to settle for a P5 finish here, although has to keep Dylan Shepherd at 2 seconds behind, still in mind to be able to make it all work.
I can tell you, the incident points, I just had a look at them. They are a question mark over a couple of drivers. It's a couple of drivers. Not in this, well, there is a couple in this fight, but race lead should be comfortable. Which will come out of the final corner. And to the stripe, there's 1 minute and 30 seconds left. That will be enough. White flag in the air. Final lap of the race. Here we go. After 2 hours around Mugello. A field save affair.
Ethan Bass has had to pit, boys. Oh, you see the white flag and then you got to drive into pit lane. Isn't that heartbreaking?
Well, he took it deep as he possibly could. Just was not going to make it. And Ben Woods is still close. He gets the margin in underneath a second. This is a battle pack deeper in the field as well, as they come off the final corner. But it is a lot to ask of Ben Woods to get there on Sam Chapman.
Close some more. What he's continuing to bring that gap down.
Car length by car length. Does Chapman have to save? Did he turn the wick up a fraction too early? I reckon he's going to be tight when he gets to the line. The question mark will be, will he cough, splutter and die out of the final corner? For Adam Hughes and Andrew Scordilis, run to the last couple of corners. They are chasing the tail end of this one. Hughes took it late in the piece. Has not led much of this race. Went for the undercut, popped out the other side. It was 3 seconds less of fuel that he added. That was the difference maker in the end. They will cross the line inside of a second to each other, and that last pit stop will be critical for Andrew Scordilis. That's where he lost it. For Adam Hughes, it's a win in Mugello. For the One Performance Racing driver, it'll be Acura 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sam Chapman's going to get it home. He will get enough fuel to get to the line. Tell you what, there is a car out there that ran out on the final lap, and it was Sam Sproul. And that's that Mustang you're seeing crawling to the line. Shepherd home from Mackay on the final lap. And that is your top 6. This is a battle deeper in the field between Webber and Jepson, who tracked each other down back into the top 10. And for Jepson, feels like he's going to touch more pace. Will come off Corinteo right here through the final chicane, but he's narrowed up the exit of the chicane. He's going to probably try and have a dive. Covered by Webber. Does Webber get the car rotated nice and neatly? He does, and it's a short run to the line. There is not much of a way. The Jepson is going to get that one done. So covered off nicely inside the final few moments. For Matt Webber, we'll get home inside the top 10. He'll be happy with the top 10 finish after that one.
Yeah, I think in this field, anybody got good top 10, wouldn't they?
Johnny Wallace will come home with the last car on the lead lap, 13th. And biggest gain inside the top 10, Sam Chapman. By the way, Chapman's still got enough fuel. he's actually going to be able to drive that car all the way back. He did not drive it down to the very last drop at the start-finish line, so he was comfortable.
So Scotty, I mean, I just watched a 2-hour green flag race, which is something in the series we don't actually often get to see. With that was a genuine fuel race as far as I'm concerned. That was a race where those that were smart enough to pick it up early enough, I'm talking Sam Chapman, Ben Woods, pick it up as a fuel race early on, were able to, over a couple of stints, maybe they're racing at the back and you don't get as much attention through the race, but you sort of filter your way up to the top. But those that just have pure speed, Adam Hughes and Andrew Skidillis, they just out there, 3 stops and went to the end. So what a classic fuel race for me. Really, really good.
In confirmation of your final results, Adam Hughes, Skidillis, Sam Chapman are going to be top 3, bring it home from Ben Woods, Dylan Shepherd, Dean Mackay, Owen Coleman's too short. Ethan Bass does remain inside the top 10, home in 9th spot. Matt Webber rounds out your top 10. Heartbreak for Bass. There was a top 5 in the offering there. He just couldn't quite make it. Adam Jepson and Nick Wood just outside the 10. Tommy Wallace, last car home on the lead lap. Seamus Brown, we saw him cough, splutter and die out of the final corner. He'll get home just off the lead. Sean McClune, not a easy night at the office for him. Brad Coates, remember, had damage very, very early on. Jamie Saxon issues in the pit stops. Ran out of fuel at the end of the first run. Nathan Tapp, Bobby Camo, also 1 lap down. Daniel Coleman home in 20th spot for him. And outside the 20, it was the final 4 cars that entered. Trent Allen from 13 laps from home after the issues that he ran into. Ricky Provenzali also retiring. Lipsky and Middleton both with physical issues, unfortunately, for both of those drivers having to retire from the race. Righto, that is the final results there, ladies and gents. Time to get into a little bit of post-race celebrations I'm actually not seeing. I think we'll have the opportunity to chat to Sam Chapman here in just a few moments. Actually, just grabbed him now. Sam, that one was tight in terms of fuel. You were keeping an eye on Ethan in and around you as well. Looks like you maybe saved a touch too much because it was more than enough to get home on that final lap. But mate, that was tight in terms of the fuel saving strategy.
Yeah, it was. I'm filthy at myself because I did save too much. It ticked over with a few laps to go, and I went, oh, it's 1 lap less. All right, time to push, I guess. So yeah, it's I guess a bit annoying that I didn't get to push earlier and that sort of thing. But we'll take 3rd every day of the week with a couple of off tracks and spins in the wall and that sort of thing. So, and Ben Woods did me a service by fat fingering his pit stop as well because he was absolutely in the box seat to win that race.
Yep, right there and in and amongst it, mate. In terms of things. Mugello is just one of those brilliant tracks to actually go for a drive around, isn't it? Hot lapping around this place, or hot lapping and lifting, coasting, and saving the company card, mate. She's a little bit rough on that front left tyre, but other than that, it's just a brilliant, picturesque place. You got all the Italian mountains in and around the area. Beautiful, picturesque circuit to go driving at.
Absolutely. I love Mugello. It's exactly the sort of circuit I like, with those sort of flowing corners, a bit of curbs here and there. It's just a really nice track and it creates nice racing. My first laps in the Acura were in qualifying. I'd never done it before, so it was a bit different. I'd done it in the Macca before, and it's a lot more sort of understeer and a lot more on that front left within this car. But yeah, after that first stint, we got the hang of it a bit, and yeah, once you get into a flow round here, it's really nice to drive.
Mate, in terms of things, when you started that fuel save strategy all the way back at the front end of the race, did you think the podium was possible? What was the target when you started the old lift and coast?
Well, the first stint, because I was so green, I decided to join because I screwed up a different race and couldn't enter, and went, okay, great, Pell's on. So joined in. So he wasn't really saving for the first half of the first stint, was just sort of wobbling around and crashing into things and, seeing what was going on. And then I was looking up at the fuel gauge and I went, ooh, okay, this could be on here. So just got to that like extra lap on the others in that first stint, and then had to do a much larger save in the second one to bring it home. So yes, there wasn't too much planning early on. It was more from that sort of second half of the first stint that I started doing the math on it, and started managing the race, a bit more professionally.
Mate, in terms of things, nice little result to come out from the hills of Italy and the Tuscan region. Who would you like to give a thank you and a shout out for coming to race tonight?
So shout out to RER team. Obviously, I usually race with Vermilion, but I've been racing with these guys in Pell for a while, and they're a good group of guys. So happy to go out and race with them when I get a chance. So thank you to them. Thank you to you guys for jumping on the broadcast, and I'll have to give it a watch back. It might skip the first 15 minutes, but we'll watch it from there.
Thank you very much for joining us here. I'm glad that you actually had a whole bunch of fun out there tonight, and thank you very much, mate. Get back out there, celebrate, have a bit of fun.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good one.
Good to chat. I actually think that might be the entirety of the podium that we've actually got an opportunity to chat to here tonight, Pete, because we actually don't have Andrew Scordillis or Adam Hughes, unfortunately, available to us. I did actually quickly grab Ben Woods because he is in the area. So for the driver that just barely finishes off of the podium, congratulations, Ben. I mean, from the rear end of the field, jumping across to the Acura. Good news, team boss Dan over here gave you an A, mate, in terms of your driver card performance rating tonight. So you get to give Dan one as a team boss. What's the response?
Thanks. I'm a bit gutted I messed up my pit stop. But apart from that, no, it was a great night. Going pole, starting at the back and finishing almost on the podium. I can't ask for a better night.
Mate, tough track to overtake at sometimes as well, because you've got the big old run down into turn one. How critical was getting the fuel? Like, so difficult to try and execute overtakes and save fuel in that first run. It's just very, very tough stuff to get done.
There's a few really good spots you can save fuel without compromising your pace too much and keep your foot in it for turn one and the final turn. So when I had to overtake, I was just sacrificing that turn one fuel save and then picking it up elsewhere on the lap where it's impossible to overtake.
Mate, in terms of the championship, obviously disqualification from the last round's points for the car swap and everything. Happy with the movement over to the Acura now? Enjoying the change. I mean, we're talking a little bit. There's a balance of performance coming in a couple of weeks. So you're sort of sacrificing the championship, just going, I'm out here looking for race wins at this point, really.
Yeah, I was already pretty much out. I missed round one, and then I had a shocker at Monza. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna race the rest of the season for fun. Show up for the rounds, have a bit of fun, and maybe bring a championship battle to next season.
Mate, congratulations on the result here from the hills of Italy. Who would you like to give a thank you to?
Thanks to all the Orbit Drop Air boys. Thanks to Ethan as well for keeping me company in the booth tonight. It was a pretty boring race at times. And just a shout out to Adam, Andrew, and Sam. They ran a really good race and well-deserved podiums.
Mate, congratulations, and we'll see you again next time out.
Cheers, boys.
Ladies and gents, that is going to about bring us to the end of this one, but that was 2 hours around the hills of Italy and Mugello. And I'll tell you what, just having a quick look forward in terms of the calendar down, we are off to Spa-Francorchamps. And with the 24 hours of Spa coming our way in the near future, we're getting a balance of performance right on these cars. I think the big thing is we're talking a lot about it. There's always going to be an overpowered car. There is always going to be one car that's better than others. If you take the Acura out, the rest of the class is actually exceptionally close here. We're heading into a new balance of performance. Where do you think it's going to? Do you think it's going to be more evenly trended? Tires? compete feeling confident about an aero change to these cars. That'll be right before that round, I believe, as well. So there's a lot for these drivers to sort of deal with in the next coming weeks, given that we're also heading into the endurance season as well, which is going to be a mega challenge.
Yeah, look, I mean, in my experience with the GT3, the aero changes has not been significant, but they're not insignificant, if you know what I mean. So they're enough but for those that are really precise in terms of what they want, it's enough to affect it. But I don't think the aero change is going to affect, the average iRacer. No, we're talking about the Open Series, right? So, the aliens of us. Might worry these guys more than some of us that drive, but I think it'll be more tweaks than holistic change. I would like to err and sort of challenge Dan a little bit and say, maybe iRacing has picked up on the fact that maybe the Acura has been picked a little bit too much, and there might be something to look at and adjust it backwards. But who knows? We don't know the inner machinations of how that works. But for those that went from one manufacturer to the Acura, if there's a change to the next race, then in the rules of PL, if you're going to change, you're a DQ and a rear grid again. So you've got to make it worthwhile if you're going to make that decision. Otherwise, you can pretty much race most of these GT3s and be reasonably competitive against most people. But I'm not an elite racer. What do I know?
Actually, just get word from Adam Hughes. He's actually over sitting on the wrong Discord.
I'm glad he found the right track tonight. Then
he found the SimSpeed Discord, not the Premier Endurance League. So that's what I was looking at. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to a wrap, unfortunately, here tonight. Gaming Interact GT3 Open Endurance Series comes to a wrap from Mugello. 5 rounds in the book. Spa is coming in a couple of weeks' time. And we will see you all then. For now, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure having you along for the ride, and we'll see you again next time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.